Part 19. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 181. Yao Ying Song, are you manipulating the data? Leader, I don't have that ability. Besides, you have asked me 4 times today. Yao Ying Song looked at the time. It was already 10:30 in the morning, and he hadn't gone to bed yet. After sorting out the report and sending it to his boss, he received no response at first. Just when he was about to go to bed, the phone rang. As soon as he was connected, he heard the suspicious voice of his leader. In fact, this thing is almost impossible to fake. Where can he get such complex and reasonable fake data? If a decimal point is not correct, the final result will be completely different. Change one number and everything else will be messed up. He only had a small amount of time in total, just 1 or 2 hours. To falsify such a piece of data would be no less than building a high-rise building. He also knew that the leader's suspicion was not that the data was falsified, but that the data was too shocking and difficult to believe. The leader needs an explanation that can convince him. The simplest and most direct way is to ask if there is a problem with the data and wait for Yao Yingsong's explanation. As leaders, simplifying complex matters is what they are best at. But Yao Yingsong couldn't explain it clearly, he couldn't understand it. All I know is that there are currently $2.163 billion in the account. I only know that the short position plus leverage is currently $450 million. Therefore, the current equity is 1.149, add 14.2%. He also looked at the data for a long time, but he just didn't know how he made money. A lot of hedging data should obviously not make money, but Li Yuan not only made money, but also made a lot. Because most of the stocks rose by about 10 points, the overall price rose by 14 points in the end, and there seemed to be nothing wrong with it. But the core question is, how did Li Yuan make these stocks rise? How is it possible that after buying a dozen stocks, all of them have gone up? And what his leader wanted to hear was this plot. He couldn't ask Li Yuan. Yao Yingsong, do you know that you got a bargain? Yao Yingsong said immediately, Leader, this has nothing to do with me. It's because Li Yuan is too strong. I can't even understand the data. Don't you kid get an advantage and act like a good boy. I'll hide this from you for the time being, lest Yesheng suddenly regrets it again. Thank you, leader. Yao Yingsong couldn't even imagine when he was so valued by the leader. He has always been a character that his grandma doesn't care about and his uncle doesn't love him. Now for some reason, he has a leader helping him stand up. No matter what, at least I can sleep peacefully. In a position like his, he doesn't dare to turn off his phone when sleeping. No matter when the boss calls, he has to answer the call. If I don't sleep, I won't be able to make it in the afternoon. He had to meet Yu, who got off work at 6:30. Around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Yu took a look at the data of Qingtian mixed small and medium caps and encouraged Guo Meng. After all, Li Yuan doesn't have time to be in the company during the day, so he, the general manager, needs to pay attention. Now Qingtian mixed small and medium caps has stabilized. After all, the scale is only 6 billion, so it is difficult to think that it will not stabilize. The net worth is only 2.09. Compared with the peak value of 3.6, the decline can be said to be extremely extreme. He didn't even bother to read today's report. If he wasn't afraid that Li Yuan would suddenly ask about it and he wouldn't be able to answer it, he really wouldn't be interested at all. I am definitely losing money, I am losing money every day. Currently, the comment permissions in the Qingtian Huatong app are not turned on, and the entire internet has been criticizing it for more than a month. But now Guo Meng can face this reality calmly. The price does not drop much every day and is gradually approaching stability. Yu Eta has already thought about it. Whenever Guo Meng's trading can become popular for one day, he will go out alone to celebrate, because it is really not easy. At this time, Yao Yingsong came to his office. Yu Yu was a little surprised and asked, "Manager Yao, why are you here so early?" When he came to the company in the morning, Yao Yingsong was still busy working there. How many hours had it just passed? It's all calculated, but it only takes more than 8 hours. What about the round trip? Don't you have to clean up after you go back? Washing up or something? In other words, Yao Yingsong may not have even 7 hours of rest time. Yao Yingsong said with a smile, "Mr. Yu, I just want to come over and see if you have anything else to tell me. After all, I'm new here and don't know many things about the company, so I can only disturb you a little more." Yu. Why do the guys from this big national fund put themselves in such a low profile? We are all at the general manager level, so there is no need to be so polite, right? Besides, who likes to make trouble for themselves? Isn't that just what the company does? He is not allowed to participate in the management of the company. He only needs to be responsible for sorting out the KDI fund statements, and nothing else has anything to do with him. Manager Yao, you are too polite. I am not qualified to arrange work for you. You just need to follow the boss's arrangements. By the way, have you eaten? If not, I will treat you to a meal. Yao Yingsong said, "That's not possible. I ask you to ask you some things to pay attention to in the company, as well as some of the boss's preferences." Yu corrected, "The boss's preferences don't need to be cared about by subordinates. We are a private company, and the boss doesn't care about those things. As long as you do your job well, the boss will be very satisfied." Damn it, this Yao Yingsong actually wants to steal his job. As an outsider, you don't know how many days you can stay here, right? You are the one who wants to work at Qingtian Capital for a long time. Are you worthy of grabbing the job to please the boss? Yao Yingsong seemed to have noticed something and hurriedly said, yes, I haven't changed my mind yet. Mr. Yu, how about we talk while walking? Yu, okay, but I have to pay for this meal. Inviting Yao Yingsong to a meal completely blocked his attempt to please his boss. Yao Yingsong could only agree. He didn't want to have any conflicts with Yu. He just wanted to do his own thing well. Since Yu didn't give him this opportunity, he could only find other things to do. Anyway, I can't take any time off. Soon, the two of them sat at the dinner table. The topics we talk about are basically small things, some about the past and some about the future. Yao Yingsong discovered that Yu's current goal is very simple, that is, to stay with Qingtian Capital. Whether it's 5 years or 10 years, as long as I can stay there, I'll be satisfied. He has no goals. When Yu told him this, his meaning was very simple. He had no ambition, so others had better not come to take his job. Yao Yingsong's future does not lie with Qingtian Capital. He is still young, in his 20s, and has just graduated from college 2 years ago. Even if you have no background, as long as you encounter a few good opportunities and seize them, you can make up for these shortcomings. Especially when he heard that his leader would help him temporarily hide the data of Qingtian Global Select Mix, he knew that his leader was going to give him a chance. Mr. Yu, there is something I want to ask you. After all, you are more senior. I am new to the workplace and don't know much about many things. Well, you say. It's like this. My boss suddenly said that he would help me hide the data of Qingtian Global Selections and Mixing, so that Yesheng from before would know about it. Do you know what this attitude is like? Oh? Why did you hide it from Yesheng? Because Yesheng's background is much stronger than mine. If he finds out, he might replace me again. After all, you should have seen today's data. The boss has made extraordinary profits. You must have read the data on the Qingtian Global Select Mix Fund. Well, nothing special. That is the normal level of one's own boss. Yu said with a smile, Manager Yao, the matter is actually very simple. My boss doesn't like Yesheng, so he didn't bother to do business last week. Yesheng didn't have the patience, so he left naturally. Now it's your turn. On the first day you took office, your boss started to take it seriously, which shows that the boss still appreciates you. Your boss must have discovered this and will stand on your side. In short, your boss values our boss, as long as he is make the choice that makes our boss comfortable, and your leaders will support it. Yao Yingsong thought deeply for a moment, showed a look of sudden enlightenment, and said gratefully, Thank you, Mr. Yu, for clarifying my doubts. I haven't figured it out for a long time, and now you remind me with just one sentence. Of course, I also thank the boss. For your trust in me, I have average abilities and can only do my best to do my job. Please give me more advice from Mr. Yu in the future. Yao Yingsong also wanted to make it clear to Yu that he was not trying to please Li Yuan, but simply wanted to do his job well. Yu discovered that Yao Yingsong was really his rival. Fortunately, their routes were different, otherwise he would definitely not let Yao Yingsong stay at Qingtian capital. Now that it's all said and done, there is no conflict of interest, and you can feel free to say something. Manager Yao, you should pay attention to your boss's emotional changes, especially his physical health. The boss is young and could have a normal schedule. But for this fund, he forcibly changed his living habits. In fact, I can feel the boss's heart. Tired. If you can do this well, just wait for it to take off. I can't guarantee anything else, but in terms of making money, no one in the world can surpass my boss. Today's data is just an appetizer. Yao Yingsong. A dozen points and it's just an appetizer? A profit of more than $200 million in one night is so ordinary in Yu's eyes. No wonder he didn't discuss the fund's income with him from beginning to end. It turned out that he wasn't surprised at all. Yes, I will definitely pay more attention to this aspect. Although what Yu said was unclear, and it would be very difficult to implement it in detail, it finally gave himself a direction, which was better than being a headless fly. Buying tea and food every day is certainly useful, but these are the most basic tasks. If he can do it, others can do it too. Yu said, in this case, let me tell you a little more about the situation. 2 weeks ago, I saw my boss come to the company refreshed for the first time. He was completely different that day. I think there must be something wrong with him. If you find something that makes your boss particularly happy, work hard in that direction, and if you find it, communicate with me. Yao Yingsong nodded immediately. Mr. Yu, can you tell me what the specific aspect is? It is difficult to investigate this kind of thing. That's all I know about the recent more important case in Zhangzhou. Yao Yingsong understood. Don't worry, Mr. Yu, I will report it to you when I figure this out. Soon, the two of them finished their meal. Yao Yingsong returned to the company and started busy with his own work. It was already past 8 o'clock, and Li Yuan hadn't come yet. He ordered some hot tea in advance, and also specifically contacted a restaurant to have some meals delivered to him at 4 or 5 in the morning. It is definitely more expensive than a bento, after all, it is a private order. But even if he pays for it out of his own pocket, he still has to do it, not to mention that Qingtian Capital will not blackmail him for the money. But he still felt that it was a bit unreal. According to what Yu said, last night's level was just Li Yuan's normal performance. So what is Li Yuan's extraordinary performance? Around 9 o'clock, Li Yuan came. I exchanged a few words with the traders and drank a cup of hot tea. Yao Yingsong had been paying attention to everything about Li Yuan, and he found that Li Yuan's face was not very good. Think about it, a big boss worth billions stays up late every day to trade, and he is still young and could have enjoyed life. He could only contact his classmates to help him investigate some things. Although my classmates are all little karami, they are in various positions, so it is not that difficult to investigate things. Finally, at 10:30, everyone went to the trading room. He began to clean up the mess and at the same time began to arrange the place for dinner. There are no dining tables in the work area, and the restaurant is not inside the company, but a public restaurant. Qingtian Capital has contracted an area, and the restaurant is closed at this time. So he had to throw away the garbage after meals every day and put the tables and chairs back in their original positions. In the trading room, Li Yuan waited for the opening. Almost all of them opened flat or 1 or 2 points higher, which showed that the opponent was more cautious and did not dare to make big moves at this time. They waited for Li Yuan to make a move so that they could adapt accordingly. But Li Yuan didn't want to take action either. Start slowly reducing your long positions until you can perfectly hedge against their short positions. At present, he still has more long orders than short orders. No matter when, even if the short order is liquidated, he is not afraid because the chips in his hand are balanced. It will maintain a state of neither profit nor loss. But for those tickets that were open 2 or 3 points higher today, he had to eat up those 2 or 3 points. If others don't take action, he won't take action either. This lasted for about 20 minutes, and the long order in his hand hadn't even been closed yet, so the other party couldn't bear it anymore. Because they don't want to take the chips. Losing 1 or 2 points is also very disgusting. So, they smashed it decisively. It hit 5 or 6 points directly. This is the most robust kind of initiative. Because they felt that Li Yuan would definitely be unable to resist repaying his short order. With such a good position, it was almost guaranteed that the short order in his hand would be safely withdrawn. Wall Street wanted to take advantage of Li Yuan's opportunity to repay his short order and lock in some chips. Long and short are all relative. If Li Yuan wants to repay his short order, he will become a long, and the stock price will naturally rise. No one should be able to refuse such a good opportunity, right? But Li Yuan finally brought in Wall Street funds, so how could he just give up? Take the chips in this position, take them slowly, and see how long they can put them in. Instead of paying off the short order, he covered his long position. Although there is essentially no difference, a repayable short position is to hand over the chips to the brokerage, while covering one's long position is to put the chips in one's own hands. It is impossible for him to let the brokers make the money he should have earned. If the other party gives him the opportunity to set up, he will definitely not let it go. The monthly pass is enough. I don't want it anymore. Thank you everyone. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 182. The profit from arbitrage is actually not high. Li Yuan and the others sold the chips at about 2 points, and took over 5 or 6 points underwater. Not many were sold, and not many were accepted. In about 2 hours, I probably earned around $10 million. As Li Yuan took on more and more, the funds inside seemed to be unbearable. No matter how much Li Yuan asked for, they would give him as much as he wanted. However, Li Yuan only took $500 million in chips in the end, and never took any more. If you eat it again, you will trap yourself. $500 million on average, is equivalent to $20 to $30 million per ticket. These funds are not enough to allow the institutions in those tickets to escape. If they continue to eat chips, those institutions may directly let Li Yuan take over, and the result will be. Of course, Li Yuan didn't have that much money to take over. Li Yuan currently holds long orders of $1.4 billion and has more than $300 million in reserve. Plus more than $400 million in leveraged short orders. Seeing that the other party did not respond, Li Yuan decisively gave the order. Continue to open short orders at this position, follow the previous process, and open today's first round of short orders. The pain point on Wall Street is that they have to face the problem of investors withdrawing their capital. They must make the data look better, and no matter how bad it is, they cannot suffer too big a loss. If Li Yuan is willing to fully take over the deal, they can cash it in. Even if the discount is 20 points, it will be worthwhile for them to get cash. Because their own capital bubble is more than 20 points. If someone promotes it, they can accept it. What I'm most afraid of is that I can't get out my funds and the stock price is still falling. Today, if Li Yuan takes over us $500 million, there may be an organization that throws all the chips in his hands to him. They really don't want to compete with others now. Yesterday was just an experiment, and each company paid millions of dollars to test the waters. There are hundreds of institutions associated with these stocks, each with several $1 million, which is not a small amount in total, but for a single institution, it is really not a big investment. As Li Yuan Kong came out, they were completely stunned. It has become a consensus yesterday that the new guy is not easy to mess with, but you are almost done with it. You have to chase him and bite him, right? They watched the stock price drop a few points and decided not to enter the market because they thought the book was ugly. Come in, you don't know when it will end. From yesterday's test, it was already clear that the opponent was determined to pull the lever. Unless the opponent could pull the lever in one go, it would be useless. Because the opponent does not have many chips and has greater flexibility. They even realized that the other party might be hedging and being very bold, making it even harder to pull off the blow. Seeing that the stock price was about to drop 10 points, they felt entangled in their hearts. But this is far from the end, just a beginning. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Li Yuan saw that those people were silent and decisively opened the second round of empty contracts again. This time the attack was more thorough because the force of the attack was weaker. $20 to $30 million were spent on each stock, but in the end no one took the deal. It directly penetrated the bottom line of 20 points. At this time, as long as it is pulled from 20 points underwater to 2 points above water, all of Li Yuan's short orders will be liquidated at this time. The more immobile the enemy is, the greater Li Yuan's chances are. Opening a long contract backhand will also increase the leverage by 6 times. Li Yuan gave the order again. There were 20 points of chips under the water. Since no one took them, he took them himself. It's equivalent to taking the securities firm's bargaining chip into your own hands. Although you don't make any money, you may even lose money in handling fees. He only takes over at about 20 points underwater, and does not use any chips at other positions. On Wall Street, many institutions were unable to eat at noon. The cigar cabinets they usually used for celebrations gave me a headache when they saw them. 20 points is definitely the bottom line for Wall Street institutions. Will investors take a look tomorrow? Good guys, you lost more than 10 points to me in one night. Redemption. Redemption. Asking you to manage funds is not as good as my dog. So after breaking through the 20-point underwater position, the people and institutions on Wall Street couldn't sit still. Although they are all small institutions, hundreds of such institutions go bankrupt in the beautiful country every year, but they cannot be bullied like this. Just because they don't have much money doesn't mean they don't have money. Where did the name capitalist country come from? After all, they can be regarded as small capital, and they can also be regarded as the owners here. They don't know who is causing trouble this time, whether it is a foreign institution or a domestic colleague, but they have been bullied to their faces, and they will not tolerate it forever. For those who play with capital, every money they earn is filled with blood. After trying it before, I felt it was not a good deal, but now. As some phones gradually started ringing, around 3:30, the entire market began a major counterattack. When Li Yuan saw funds entering the market and began to violently increase the price, he knew that the other party could not bear it any longer. At the same time, he had only opened long contracts of less than $1 billion, 50% of which were taken from himself, and the other 50% were scattered chips attracted from the market. The current situation is that we hold long orders of $2.4 billion, of which $1 billion are leveraged contracts. Holding billions of dollars in short positions, all of which are leveraged contracts. The remaining funds are only $180 million. When the stock price started to rise, Li Yuan immediately issued an order. The remaining $180 million are on the water surface, and all of them are placed in short orders. He is not allowed to liquidate his position. As long as you can continue to open short orders of $180 million at that position, after adding up the leverage, you will have short orders of more than $1 billion, which is enough to push your liquidation line up by about 8 points. In that case, the stock price will have to rise to 10 points before you can liquidate your position. From 20 points underwater to 10 points above the water, a full 32 points were waiting for them. Perhaps overall it is not that difficult for them to promote. But if each family does not come up with $10 to 20 million, it will definitely not be possible. If you can come up with $1 or $2 million, then it shouldn't be a problem to come up with $100 or $200 million, right? Can't take it out? Oh. Wall Street's counterattack was surprisingly unanimous. Li Yuan smiled after seeing it. It shows that the information behind them is completely shared, even if it is not shared in full, at least it is shared in pairs. And those people also realized that their opponents were the same. But they don't have the authority to check Li Yuan's background. Moreover, no foreign funds have ever specifically targeted them, so they subconsciously believe that some big capital in the beautiful country wants to drain their blood. This is law of the jungle, and financial markets around the world must abide by this rule. Either resist, or watch others cut your flesh. McPherson is a little guy on Wall Street. His company's management scale is only $1 billion. This $1 billion was created through years of increasing bubbles. In fact, if we had to liquidate the stocks we held, we wouldn't be able to realize even $500 million. The funds he has to pay to investors at this time are $700 million. This is a game of spreading flowers by beating the drum. As long as investors continue to come in and the previous investors don't withdraw together, he can maintain the bubble and maintain the scale of his company, earning tens of millions of dollars every year. But once a run occurs, his company will go bankrupt. There is no financial company that is not leveraged, and it is impossible for those who play securities to debubble. Bubbles are profit points, but bubbles are also life-threatening. The bigger the bubble, the more money you make. In the same way, the bigger the bubble, the more desperate the death will be when it kills people. Now he is faced with a situation. If he allows the other party to suppress him, his bubble will be burst and the company will definitely go bankrupt. After the run, even if he can apply for bankruptcy protection, he will never be a billionaire and become a poor man. This situation is unacceptable to him. In this beautiful country, it is impossible for poor people to turn around even if they spend 10 more lifetimes. The descendants of the poor do not enjoy high-quality educational resources. Even if they work hard and have good academic performance, it is almost impossible to get a letter of recommendation from a prestigious school. Once you have lowered your class status in this beautiful country, and you want to cross over again, the chances are likely to be the same as asking, "Do you believe I am Qin Shi Huang, or do you believe he can cross the class?" Therefore, after McPherson saw that his heavy stock position was hit by someone by 20 points, he couldn't sit still. If this performance is taken out tomorrow, investors who request redemption on that day will break the company's threshold. And from then on, his company was doomed. Not just him, many people are like him. In the current fragile economic environment, we cannot afford this kind of loss. Investors are like monkeys who work all day and night. They can change the allocation plan or reduce it a little bit, but they can never change from a day and night to a day and night. They cannot bear the price. They decided to fight back. Even if the opponent has large funds, they can mobilize a large amount of funds to enter the market as long as they are willing. This time, they will not give their opponents a chance. They must defeat their opponents so they can survive. It can also allow the market to continue to rise and maintain superficial prosperity. On the surface they still have a choice, but in fact they have no choice at all. Between bankruptcy and desperate efforts, no one would choose bankruptcy. As their funds came in, stocks were visibly pulled up. In the US stock market, such violent fluctuations are very common, but many small stocks are buried in the broader market and are not known to anyone. From 20 points underwater to 5 points above water, it took less than 5 minutes. The funds on the market are very consistent. This time each company spent 10 to 20 million US dollars, and only a few million US dollars have been spent now. Soon, the stock price touched 10 points above the water. This is a warning line, and a liquidation situation may occur. However, McPherson's expectations were ultimately met with failure. A large number of chips fell directly at this position. McPherson's heavy holdings of stocks resulted in a total loss of nearly $50 million. If they want to eat such a large amount of chips, they will consume a lot of ammunition. I don't know how much of the US $10 to 20 million we have prepared will be lost. Fortunately, they are not fighting alone, but as a group of people. They had already been mentally prepared, so they did not flinch this time. He quickly ate the chips thrown by the opponent and continued to counterattack. This time, chips appeared again. It is still 10 points above the water. What does this mean? It means that the chips sold by the other party for the first time are not short contracts. If so, then the liquidation line will be pulled upward. Man, the other party has added a short order again, and the other party has lost its hedging chips. He is already a lion without its claws. We can definitely try our best. Without hedging, those short orders are just decorations. The enemy can only keep adding margins or keep opening high short orders for hedging, which is equivalent to drinking poison to quench thirst. The more the other party raises, the greater the loss will be when the position is finally liquidated. This is a road of no return. Evan, this is yesterday's drama, we will be treated as clowns. Yes, we are clowns, but isn't it always like this? I want to take off this mask. You'll be beaten to death. McPherson didn't expect that his old buddy didn't want to play anymore at this time. Evan, we can't compete with big money. Just like we don't dare to look directly at a goddess at a cocktail party. As long as she glares at her, we will shit our pants. What are you talking about, you bastard? You want to be a traitor. Not only will you go bankrupt, you will also lose your life. The so-called traitor is in this position, giving away the chips in his hand. After all, it has already risen 10 points. Whether it is a light position or a heavy position, it is easy to run away in this environment. The price is to become a traitor to the entire group and let other funds bear greater pressure. Hey, Evan, I was just joking. I will continue to stick to our defense line, just like I will not secretly date the young woman next door. My character is worthy of everyone's trust. When McPherson heard this statement, his doubts were not dispelled, but he became more and more uneasy. Because he wants to run too. He is over 50 years old, and as long as he can cash out at a high level, the chips in his hand will not be discounted. After receiving more than $1 billion in cash and cashing in $700 million to those investors, he still had several $100 million in hand. You can buy an island in Hawaii for a vacation. If he doesn't come out for the rest of his life, it's impossible for those damn poor people to find him. Soon, even under the suppression of a large number of short orders, the position of 10 points was still broken through, and it quickly rushed towards the 15 points on the water. There is no difference from yesterday, it is nothing more than a shift of the liquidation line. McPherson is excited. Very, very excited. This may be his only chance, the only chance to control his own destiny. At other times, he can only be a clown, but now he can control his destiny. As long as you sell a few of your heavily held stocks at this position, your redemption crisis will be lifted, and you will only have to face pressure from your peers. How can anyone not be selfish? He called his old buddy and said, "Old buddy, I know you are in a hurry, but you'd better not be in a hurry. You have to think about the price of your betrayal. Even if you take the money to buy an island in Hawaii, someone will blow up your island. And he is not afraid, because he does not have to go to Hawaii." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 183. Li Yuan saw that the overall trend was about to break through 15 points on the water, and he hesitated for a while. Because he still has $1.4 billion in chips that can be used as a hedge. But seeing the immediate benefits, he couldn't help it. It was $1.4 billion at that time, and now it is worth $7.7 billion. If you sell it, you will make $300 million. He was still about 3 points away from breaking through his short position, and he still had money in his hand. Previously, we sold $1.3 billion at about 10 points. After repaying the contract, we made a net profit of $300 million. Adding the principal of $180 million, there is a total of $480 million available for use. Just now, we only spent $160 million, which was enough to increase the position twice more. It would take almost 27 points to reach the liquidation line. The reason why Li Yuan hesitated was when to sell. Wait until 27 o'clock to sell? Or sell now? His chips can be said to be a perfect hedge against the short order in his hand. If the stock price can fall after selling, he will make a profit. If the stock price cannot be suppressed after selling, then you will lose money. After selling, there is no middle ground. Either the risk of making money increases or the risk of losing money increases. It is unwise to be greedy for 27 points, because he does not believe that he can still be pulled up that high today. Today is different from yesterday. Yesterday, we were pulled from the water to more than 30 points. Today we moved from 20 points underwater to 15 points above water. Theoretically, the amplitude is close to 40 points, which is higher than yesterday. Moreover, the trading volume is also increasing, and it is not just the trading between the two opponents. Li Yuan feels that there are also a lot of scattered chips thrown out in the chaos. Either someone is fishing in troubled waters, or someone is taking advantage of the opportunity to run away, but they don't have such a big fanfare and are doing it secretly. Start reducing positions with long orders, small amounts multiple times. Li Yuan finally made up his mind. As he began to reduce his long positions, the stock price not only did not fall, but continued to rise. Soon, the liquidation line for his short position was reached. Continue to open 1 billion short contracts. He doesn't make a margin call, there's no point in that. Just open a new contract, which has the same effect as adding a margin call. Margin call means that the number of contracts in your hand is fixed. If you make a profit, the money you make is fixed. If you lose, the money you lose is also fixed. Open a short contract as a buffer. If you make money, you will make more, and if you lose money, you will lose more. When you go to a casino, you will definitely consider how much you can earn first, and then maximize your chances of making money. He had been paying attention to the number of chips in his hand. As the chips he held dropped to $500 million, the risks began to increase. Short contracts are not counted as chips because they are all sold. The current situation is that Wall Street is receiving a large amount of chips. Even if the huge amount is released today, the transactions of related stocks have exceeded $200 million, which is completely different from the usual $20 to $30 million. His long orders are smashing, and his short orders are also smashing, but the stock price is still stable and will soon break through 20 points. Once it exceeds 22 points, he needs to open a short order buffer again. He still has a lot of money in his hand. Short orders can continue to be opened unless the other party spends tens of billions of dollars to directly double the stock price. The other party can definitely take it out, and the average amount for each institution is about $100 million. But Li Yuan didn't believe they could make such a big determination. As long as there is a little difference, it will be the biggest help to you. Your short orders will make money sooner or later. If the other party is willing to use us $30 billion to triple the stock price, then he will lose even more. Li Yuan has considered these risks, and even considered the situation of losing all the principal of us $1.5 billion and still owing a large amount of money. In the stock market, winning or losing is always uncertain before positions are cleared. Therefore, the daily income situation has no reference significance at all when placed in the data at this time. The stock price was about to break through 21 points, and Li Yuan decisively issued the order to open a short contract for the fourth time. It was still 6 times leverage, and $1 billion in chips were thrown out. So far, he has held a total of $4.5 billion in short contracts. The money is in his account, but he cannot use it. Once the subsequent purchase price of those chips exceeds $4.5 billion, it means that he has to pour money into it. At 27 points, as long as the stock price doubled, he would lose $4.5 billion. The cash in his hand is enough to continue to cover short contracts or make margin calls. After probably doubling it again, he will have no means at all. By that time, he will have lost us $13.5 billion. It's almost time to restart. No matter how awesome he is, he can't make a comeback. Just wait and pay off your debt slowly for the rest of your life. Empty orders are so exciting. Opening short orders at will is extremely exciting. After Li Yuan once again sold out $1 billion short contract, it was obvious that the intensity of undertaking the contract began to weaken. It might also be an illusion. Anyway, Li Yuan was in this position and completely cleared out the chips in his hand. Now he doesn't have any chips in his hand, which means he has no way out. With us $1.8 billion in hand, I plan to rush all of it into the short contract later, and just open it slowly to see who can hold on to the end. The previous operations were all foreshadowing, and now is the biggest game point. At present, he has made us $900 million on long orders and lost us $600 million on short orders. This is the real beginning. No one has an absolute chance of winning, both sides are on the same level. 16 stocks, at this time, began to show huge differences. Some frowned and kept rushing forward. Li Yuan had to continue to fill the short order buffer. And in some cases, the momentum dropped and began to stand still, and even occasionally fell back. After the birth of this trend, Li Yuan felt relieved. Even if only 2 or 3 stocks stop their upward momentum, it will be a boost to him. Pay close attention to the positions. Now the trend is inconsistent. Individual stocks are close to the liquidation line. Timely mobilize funds and open short orders to suppress it. There will be no instructions next. All instructions are only one. Do not liquidate the position. At all costs. After Li Yuan said this, the atmosphere in the entire trading room became serious. Traders know very well what this means, and they also know very well what it will mean once the $1.8 billion enters the market with leverage. It means that losses will reach the extreme. This means that once the stock price continues to rise, all the funds will be turned into bubbles, not to mention that you will still owe tens of billions of dollars in debt. They all came from Qingtian mixed small and medium caps, and they have also handled tens of billions of funds. But the risk of losing tens of billions of dollars still makes them tremble. My boss has never played such a big game before. At 3 o'clock in the morning, when some stocks broke through 27 points, Li Yuan performed a supplementary order operation. However, this time only 13 stocks rose to the liquidation line, and the other 3 stocks stabilized. In fact, Li Yuan has been watching the trading volume, and the increase in trading volume of all stocks is similar. The other 3 have not risen, which means there are others inside who are smashing them. This time, the short contract worth $290 million was filled. At 3:30 in the morning, 11 stocks touched the 31-point liquidation line, and Li Yuan once again filled in a short contract of $250 million. At 4 o'clock in the morning, 10 stocks touched the liquidation line of 35 points, and Li Yuan once again filled in the short contract of $230 million. At 4:10 in the morning, 10 stocks touched the liquidation line of 39 points, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $230 million. At 4:15 in the morning, 9 stocks touched the 42-point liquidation line, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $200 million. At 4:20 in the morning, 9 stocks touched the liquidation line of 44 points, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $200 million. At 4:25 in the morning, 8 stocks hit the liquidation line of 46 points, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $180 million. 4:30 in the morning, 48 points, $180 million. 4:35 in the morning, 50 points, $160 million. It basically lasts 5 minutes for a round of battle, and the trader is already numb. Li Yuan was really brave enough to fight. After a while, another short contract of $1.63 billion was added, and the total short contract reached $6.1 billion. Boss. Someone spoke. Stop talking nonsense and keep making up. Li Yuan looked very serious. At 4:40, 7 stocks touched the liquidation line of 51 points, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $160 million. At 4:42, 7 stocks touched the liquidation line of 52 points, and Li Yuan filled up the short contract of $160 million. 4:43, 53 points, $160 million. 4:45, 54 points, $160 million. 4:46, 55 points, $140 million. 4:47, 56 points, $140 million. 4:48, 4:49, 4:50, 59 points, $120 million. 4:51, 4:52, 4:53, 4:54, 4:55, 61 points, $120 million. Finally, at this moment, the entire trading room fell silent. Li Yuan forced himself to pay another $1.92 billion. In the end, every second is a battle, and every second is a contract. Both sides have entered a heated stage. Traders can only watch as the funds in their hands become less and less. Of the $1.8 billion only $1.2 billion were left at this time, and $600 million had been used. On paper, they have lost. As long as those stocks can hold on, it won't be long before they are wiped out. Because every subsequent contract replenishment is only 1 point, and even the further you go, the worse the effect of contract replenishment becomes. It takes 2 times to make up 1 point of space. Although there is still $1.2 billion, we can leverage $7.2 billion in chips. Li Yuan knew that it would be more difficult as he got to the back, but he didn't expect that he still overestimated the money he had. If you make up for it later, you are no longer making up money. It is of no use at all. The $1.2 billion in his hand can only suppress the stock's rise by another 30 points at most. Much lower than expected. He thought he could sustain the stock price until it doubled, but the result may not even be doubled. The reason is that there are too many short orders at the bottom. It can also be said that he is not very good at mathematics. But everyone is holding on. If the opponent is really strong, he won't pull away like this little by little, and he won't wait for a minute to eat up his own chips if he hits the empty position. This is a pure opponent's game. No matter how much he throws, the funds will be taken away. At this moment, more than $3 billion is indeed a lot, but the other party's mobilization of more than $3 billion is also a lot, and it must also be leveraged. Of the 16 stocks, only 5 are still holding on. The other 11 are basically trading sideways at this time. At this time, trading volume began to slow down a lot. It was the last few minutes and no one seemed to want to argue anymore. After working hard all day, there is no point even if we continue to fight, because we will definitely grit our teeth and persevere. At this time, the 5 stocks that had been holding on began to plummet. There was little effort from the bottom to take over, and the stock price soon fell through. The original increase was 61 points, but in the blink of an eye, it became 36 points. Boss, the other party can't handle it anymore. Some traders' nerves were too tight and they couldn't help shouting. In this trading room, they have almost no qualifications to express their opinions. It's not that they can't hold back, but that they want to reduce the increase a little, and the entire market has no chips. They have the final say on what the stock price is. And we will definitely not continue to smash at this position, and they will not let the stock price rise too much to leave enough room for tomorrow. After all, those people have heavy positions in stocks. There must be a gap between the funds entering the market today and those with heavy positions. For these 5 stocks, Li Yuan fully calculated and invested less than $2 billion. With the chips they originally had heavily invested in, even if the stock price dropped to 36 points, today's net worth is still close to 20 points. Increase. This increase is enough. A sudden increase of 40 to 50 points is scary to everyone who sees it. For those investors, it may even have a reverse effect. After all, it has risen so much, just ask for payment and leave the market, you have already made enough. If Li Yuan swapped identities with them, he would do the same at this time. An increase of more than 10 points is the best, which can stabilize the original investors and may also attract funds from the outside. It's good news for Li Yuan, at least the account looks much better. A drop of more than 20 points can reduce his book floating loss by $500 million. You don't need to look at it to know that today's book loss is very ugly. There are 4 minutes left until the close. 2 stocks that had not followed at around 20 points at the beginning suddenly appeared with large sell orders, and immediately collapsed after being accepted below. Grass. Li Yuan couldn't help but curse. These bullies on Wall Street can really endure it? He originally thought that those 2 stocks should have collapsed long ago, which would free up a lot of capital space for himself. As a result, I persist until now. It's all about to close. You beautiful countrymen should be kind to your compatriots. If you are so cruel to your own people, aren't you afraid of having children without eyesight? They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 184. Those 2 stocks can be said to be the least determined. The reason that supports Li Yuan's persistence is actually very simple, that is, there are fewer and fewer stocks to compete with him. This also means that those who dare not follow the ticket may have trouble. In particular, the increase in trading volume has not changed much, which further illustrates this situation. It's just that those two tickets at the beginning were so screwed up. Damn it, I kept insisting until the market close. What does it mean? It shows that the people inside are very greedy and almost have to give away all their chips before they are willing to smash the market. You are so greedy, are you really not afraid of being hammered to death? You have the life to take the money, but you don't have the life to spend it, right? If they had revealed their intention to smash the market earlier, the other 9 tickets would have been withdrawn long ago. Maybe not even 5 votes will stick around in the end. After all, there is a trader within, so it is meaningless no matter how they persist. Traders would make their price many times greater. The traders took away all real money, and most of them were traders with heavy positions. Basically, those stocks were completely ruined, and it was impossible for funds to enter the market again in the future. Unfortunately, we only have a few minutes. Almost in an instant, this emotion spread. Some tickets with an increase of more than 30 points were smashed in an instant. Tickets with an increase of multiple points also saw a huge amount of chips being smashed. There was a trader among them, and there was more than one trader. At this time, whoever grabs the cash first will be able to survive the subsequent difficulties. The 2 stocks before fell directly through, from 20 points above the water to 30 points below the water. Li Yuan doesn't have much funds in it, and the total leveraged funds are only $400 million. After falling 30 points underwater, I earned less than 40 points, because I was on the verge of being liquidated before. His margin for liquidation is 15 points, which will be deducted. In total, Li Yuan has been released with $400 million in leveraged funds, plus more than $100 million in cash. Add leverage again, and it's another $1 billion. Moreover, these 2 tickets were all small ticket, and I did not participate much in the follow-up. The other few tickets are the big ones. Some have as little as $300 million in leveraged funds, and as many as $500 to $600 million in leveraged funds. Moreover, Li Yuan's profit margin is even greater. Once he drops to 30 points underwater, his profit will be at least over 50 points. Li Yuan did not continue to take action, but quietly waited for the closing. At the closing moment, he heard everyone in the trading room let out a sigh of relief. Okay, let's relax after closing, go out to have something to eat, and then go back and have a good sleep. After saying that, he strode out of the trading room. Overall, today was not too outrageous and could be considered as expected. Yao Yingsong had prepared food just like last night. But it's different from last night. A table was cleared tonight, and there was either stir-fry or soup on it. And almost all of them are hot, indicating that they were just delivered not long ago. There is also a special wooden barrel next to it, which is filled with rice. Li Yuan was shocked when he saw this scene. This is the company's office. Where did Yao Yingsong find so much free time to clean up a dining area and then clean it up? What he does in this job is quite real. Outrageous. But who doesn't want to eat a delicious meal at this time? Although the bento is not bad, why eat that thing when you can eat it well? Li Yuan smiled and said, Manager Yao, according to this trend, will you bring the hot pot here tomorrow morning? Yao Yingsong immediately said, Boss, I promise that my colleagues will clean up everything here before going to work, and make sure that no smell remains. The first thing he thought about was whether Li Yuan would be angry because of this matter. Li Yuan waved his hand and said, It's nothing. You can hire a cleaner to help you. You can't have a general manager grab even the cleaning job. This is a waste of jobs. That's okay. If the boss likes hot pot, I'll get it for you tomorrow. Li Yuan said, Don't think too much about my ideas. Ask everyone for their opinions. I won't eat here tomorrow. Li Yuan could only say this, otherwise traders might choose hot pot. In fact, the trader's stomach is not good. If he has a hot pot meal when he is hungry, he may be exhausted for a day. So he can only say that he will not come to eat tomorrow. In this case, the trader will give the recipe according to his own ideas. Just wait until tomorrow and have a meal by yourself. He didn't believe that Yao Yingsong didn't prepare more than one meal. Next, Yao Yingsong also ate some with him. While eating, he asked everyone about their tastes and what they wanted to eat. About half an hour later, everyone had almost finished eating, and Li Yuan was the first to leave the company. In the end, only those 5 stocks held on tonight. Except for their artificially lowered gains, they did not collapse in the late trading. Among the remaining 11 stocks, the most fell by more than 50 points, and the least fell by more than 10 points in the last few minutes. The overall cost of his short order is about 40 points. Therefore, short orders on almost every stock are profitable. However, the specific results will have to wait until the market closes tomorrow because he did not repay a short order today. After all, those stocks that fell have had so much cash taken away from them, and they haven't fallen enough yet. The short order in his hand made people inside feel lucky that the situation had not collapsed to a bad point. At least he would have to repay the short order of $2 to $3 billion sooner or later. For a company with a market value of $4 to $5 billion, in terms of tickets, it's totally worth the wait. But they probably haven't heard a word. If people's hearts are lost, it will be difficult to lead the team. If 5 minutes before the closing, Li Yuan was only 60% sure, then now, he is already 80% sure that he will not lose money. As for how much you will ultimately earn, it is not certain. Depends on the opponent's strength. After returning home, he found that he couldn't sleep. I sat on the sofa for a while and replied to a few messages. Of course, it is inevitable to ask when Zhang Yuling will come back. If he doesn't come back, his parents will probably think that they don't have a son anymore, right? Because my parents used to send me a voice message almost every day, but since Zhang Yuling left, I have never received one again. After eating, Yao Yingsong worked for more than 40 minutes before everything returned to normal. He took out the garbage twice, each time with several garbage bags in his hand. Then he took out a bottle of relatively light perfume to cover up the last remaining smell of food. With the fresh air system turned on, there would definitely be no food smell left in the entire office before going to work. After doing all this, he went to the trading room and started sorting out the data. When he was sorting the data, he couldn't see all the data. Instead, he put together what he could sort out at once, and then put the corresponding stock trend chart in, so that the leader could see it more intuitively. You only earn 2 points for this large order. This is the data from the opening period. Li Yuan did some arbitrage, and there is not much transaction data in total. Before Yao Yingsong had time to imagine Li Yuan's earnings today, he finished sorting out the initial arbitrage trade. The total amount was only $1 to $200 million, and there was nothing important about it. But then he was stunned. I made more than 20 points on this extra order. This is also. The first thing he sorted out was the long orders, because according to his first experience, it was the long orders that made the most money. Li Yuan's trading technique is that he likes to use short orders to hedge. Even if he can seize the opportunity to make a small profit, it is actually very limited. For example, the data from yesterday morning showed that he earned an average of 13 points for long orders and 2 or 3 points for short orders. Because the amount of funds for short orders is less than that for long orders, the data were finally integrated and the overall profit was 14 points. Very powerful, he gradually gained a clear understanding of Li Yuan's abilities. When he started sorting out the long orders today, he found that he made a lot of money from the long orders today. The profit from most of the long orders was more than 20 points, and there were even a few long orders that made 30 points. Not to mention, there was a long order of $1 billion, which was 6 times leveraged, and ultimately made $320 million. What is this concept? Using a capital of about 150 million, he made a profit of 320 million. One sum doubled directly. Fortunately, the principal is small. If all the principal is used, the returns will be incredible. He really didn't dare to think that Li Yuan's leverage was just like eating and drinking, and he was not afraid of the backlash of leveraged funds. After sorting it out bit by bit, he discovered something extremely outrageous. Li Yuan actually made a full $740 million from long orders today. I just made $213 million yesterday. It suddenly became so outrageous. Based on yesterday's principal of 1.713 billion, we actually made a profit of 43 points today. In other words, the net worth will directly increase by 0.43. What the hell? He couldn't even imagine that it would actually happen. However, there are still many short orders in the future. He knows Li Yuan's habits. If he hedges, the short orders will definitely lose money today. As long as you lose money on a short position, the profit won't be too outrageous. A profit of more than 10 or 20 points is already the ceiling in Yao Yingsong's mind, and he doesn't dare to think of more. As he continued to sort out the data, short order data began to emerge. You only earned 4 points on this empty order. He used the word CAI for the first time. Because I was really numb when I looked at the profits from long orders before. Except for the scattered data at the beginning, there were no single-digit figures in the follow-up. He knew that the data for short orders today would definitely be very poor. Moreover, short orders are all leveraged. He has seen the related trends of those stocks before, and it is normal to lose more than 10 or 20 points casually. Moreover, there are extraordinarily large amounts of funds for short orders today. The first stock I sorted out had more than $500 million worth of short orders in it. Fortunately, that stock rose 36 points, and the stock price rose from $8 billion to more than $10 billion. In addition, the average price of Li Yuan's short orders was more than 40 points, so he did not open more than 5% of the short orders at one time. This one is about the same. It's only 4 points, so it's probably the highest. But it is already very powerful. It can make money on both long and short orders, which is impossible for normal people. There are billions of dollars of short orders on these two stocks, which are considered stable. No matter how much you lose later, you probably won't lose too much. In short, the profits from long orders will definitely be enough to make up for the losses from short orders. In fact, for Yao Yingsong, as long as Li Yuan can complete the contents of the contract within 1 year and earn us $10 billion from us $1.5 billion, it will be the most important resume in his life. For a newcomer to the workplace, picking up such a luxurious resume is no different than finding a backer. Perhaps for Li Yuan, the initial capital is not that much. He has investigated Li Yuan's experience and found that he can play well with 60 billion capital. Now it is equivalent to more than 10 billion capital. It is normal to make super profits. After all, there are no restrictions on the rise and fall of US stocks, which makes it easier for people like him to perform and is normal. In the later stages, it shouldn't be so outrageous. After all, it can still be maintained at more than 10 o'clock a day. Such evil people are not allowed to exist in the world. He continued to sort it out. Several stocks in a row were similar, and Li Yuan placed a large number of short orders on them, leaving little room for profit. All around 4 points. The profit on this short order is 11 points. Oh, the capital is only $300 million. That's just, not bad. It's not that outrageous. He continued to sort it out. Damn it, this short order made a profit of 22 points. How the hell is this possible? Are you sure the data isn't wrong? He knew that the data could not be wrong, the only thing that could be wrong was his own eyes. Then he looked at it for a while. In a state of shock, he slowly sorted out the data and began to sort it out. 29 pips on a $240 million short trade. What the hell? Is this scientific? This is so unscientific. After he spent a few minutes sorting out the short order data for the stock, he felt a little uneasy inside. It seems like I earn a little too much. It cannot be seen simply from the account funds, because Li Yuan has a large amount of short order funds, which were locked in the account after selling chips. The funds cannot be released until all the chips are repaid. In other words, that money can only be used to buy stocks. 31 o'clock. 31 o'clock. 32 points. 32 points. 36 o'clock. Yao Yingsong didn't know what time it was because he had no time to pay attention to the situation outside. Today's data was even more than before. He didn't realize until the company security came here that it was already 7:30. Before he knew it, he had been sitting for an hour and a half. At this time, he had just roughly sorted out all the data, and the next step was to calculate the overall results. Before he even calculated it, he already knew today's data. If he used it to deceive others, he would be considered a liar. Because Li Yuan is making crazy money with multiple orders, and his profits with short orders are even crazier than with long orders. The short orders totaled us $8.15 billion. Except for the first 5 stocks, which accounted for about us $2.3 billion, the other us $5.7 billion short orders all made more than 10 points. And most of them are above 30 points. Basically, the more funds you occupy, the smaller the proportion of profits you make, and the less funds you have, the greater the proportion of profits you make. The whole thing is relatively balanced. He imported all the data directly and finally got the final result. The average profit on short orders is 17 points. The proportion is not terrible. However, there are a lot of funds for short orders. 8 billion and 50 million funds. How much does it cost for an extra order? On the first day of October, I wish you all a happy holiday. Happy birthday to the motherland. Let me tell you one thing, because I don't know much about US stocks and have never traded in US stocks, so I wrote some bugs, but it shouldn't affect reading, so I won't change it. Please just pretend you didn't see it. Today's update should be regarded as an additional update. I will update 2 more chapters during the day. I'm sorry. Well, shamelessly, please ask for 1 more monthly pass, because if you can collect 1,000 monthly passes every month, the author can draw a lottery, with a guaranteed minimum of 100 yuan each time. A monthly ticket of 2,000 can get you 2 draws. I'm not greedy, as long as I can scrape together 1,000 each month. I'm very sensible. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 185. Yao Yingsong never thought that one day he would feel that the data he had personally calculated was false. He works for a large national fund. What kind of data has he not seen? No matter tens of billions, hundreds of billions. But have you ever seen someone making more than 10 billion a day? Have you ever seen a person whose net worth doubled in one day? He has seen it all today. Even if all the data is just a floating profit, it is 2 different things from being safe. Looking at the data in the report, the feeling of unreality is getting stronger and stronger. Short order, US $1.36 billion. Long order, US $740 million. Today's floating profit totaled US $2.1 billion. Net worth, 2.5467, add 122.1%. Strictly speaking, during the day last Monday, the net value was still 1, with 3 zeros after the decimal point, and only the fourth digit appeared, which was completely negligible. The first day, 14 o'clock. A little shocked, but that's okay. After all, Li Yuan has such a brilliant trading resume. For a man who has made more than 30 billion in A shares in 2 or 3 months, it is nothing to be surprised if he makes more than a dozen points and is considered extraordinary. Didn't you see that you didn't care much after just one glance? But how to interpret today's data? Did he send it to the leader, a letter from the leader? Even if I call the leader and confirm this in person, will the leader believe it? It is better to call the boss and tell the leader that he is Qin Shi Huang and send money to resurrect the terracotta warriors and horses with high credibility. Some people have made many times their profits overnight, and some have become rich overnight in the financial market. But those are all irreproducible. All kinds of unpredictable powers are all blessing to a certain person at that moment. But Li Yuan was just playing stocks, and he never encountered any super extreme market conditions. For example, a certain stock doubled directly, and Li Yuan happened to have a full position. All the transaction process was there, and Li Yuan earned it bit by bit. Judging from the entire stock price trend, Li Yuan once lost more than $1 billion in the middle, but in the end he won and earned more than $2 billion. He didn't sleep well yesterday, and it was obvious that he couldn't sleep well today. When he saw Yu coming to the company, he walked over and whispered, "Mr. Yu, something happened. Let's go to the office to talk." Yu thought he was talking about what he said while eating, but now he frowned. In fact, he was also worried about Li Yuan's mental state. The company suddenly obtained a foreign exchange quota of $1.5 billion, and it can also charge a high management fee. This is good news for the company after the reputation of Qingtian mixed small and medium caps collapsed. At least the company has business, and Li Yuan is personally responsible for it. It's just obvious that playing outside games is too tiring. Li Yuan's previous work and rest were too regular. Although he was young, he couldn't adapt to it all of a sudden. This is not a night of playing games in an internet cafe. This is the financial market, and every operation involves psychological pressure. He didn't even have to think about it, Li Yuan would definitely make money. But he wanted to stay with the company for 5 or 10 years, not 1 or 2. He couldn't interfere in Li Yuan's private affairs, and he couldn't do anything if he wanted to. Until Yao Yingsong appeared, he felt that Yao Yingsong was more suitable to do this. After entering the office, he immediately said, "Manager Yao has an idea so soon." Yao Yingsong immediately said, "Not yet, but I have already asked my classmates to inquire about that matter. I am looking for Mr. Yu today mainly because of the problem with today's report." Yu was puzzled. "Manager Yao, you don't need to tell me about the report. You just need to report it to your leader." "No, I don't know how to report it. The main reason is to let Yu take a look. He is a little unconfident due to today's data. He would rather suspect that there is something wrong with his brain, and he can't believe that this thing is real and really happened in front of him." "Huh? I've never done this before." "Mr. Yu, you will know after you take a look first." While talking, Yao Yingsong handed the report to Yu. For Yu, this information is not a secret and he can check it at any time. After Yu got it, he looked at it doubtfully. "It's normal, this is the boss's style. What's all the fuss about a dozen or 20 points?" Looking at the dense data, he had a headache. After all, he had other things to do later. Yao Yingsong is young and has never been used to working in a company. "I think back then, my boss could make all the difference in the bad market situation of A shares. Every day. Etc. Am I blind? Net worth increased by 122%. A profit of $2.1 billion in one night. He couldn't believe it and asked seriously, "Manager Yao, did you make a mistake in today's report?" Yao Yingsong breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that Yu was also shocked. This shows that I was right in not sending it to the leader immediately, otherwise I really don't know how to explain it. Mr. Yu, could you please help me see if there are any problems with the data? Yu asked, you haven't checked it? I've checked it 3 times, but I still feel like there's something wrong. Yu rolled his eyes. Even if you encounter a ghost and beat the wall, you should have figured out the problem after 3 times, right? The so-called problem is probably due to self-doubt caused by these data. Okay, let me check it and let's go to the trading room. Good. This matter was worth putting aside everything else for the time being. Half an hour later, Yu checked all the data and said, Manager Yao, why don't you go find someone else to take a look? Forget it, it's better not to leak this data. Then there is a manager Guo in the company. She should be able to see it, right? Of course she can watch it, but it's best not to let her watch it. Originally, Guo Meng had been adjusting her condition recently. If she were to see Li Yuan's trading data, the confidence she had finally built up might be shattered again. Even Yu, as a die-hard fan of Li Yuan, has some self-doubt after seeing this data. Such inhuman data will make his heart collapse. Yao Yingsong took a deep breath and said, okay, I'll report to the leader right now. Okay. Yu didn't say much. I can only sigh in my heart, the boss is awesome. He has always felt that by cooperating with a large national fund, Qingtian Capital has reached a higher level. After all, what other companies are doing is what they are doing. But after looking at this data, he felt that it was the big national fund that had surpassed his own boss. Have fun. No one in the world can make such gains with their own hard power. It doesn't matter whether it's a profit or not. So far, my boss has never regurgitated the profits he got into his mouth. The US stock market is the paradise for your own boss. Shares really restrict the boss's performance. No wonder the boss doesn't want to trade Qingtian mixed small and medium caps anymore. This day's income is as good as half a month's stay in Qingtian mixed small and medium caps. Boss, have you seen the report I sent? I was really not wrong. After Yao Yingsong sent the report to the leader, more than 40 minutes passed before the leader called. He hadn't slept until almost 10 o'clock. The purpose is to wait for this call. I also asked the general manager of Qingtian Capital to check with me to ensure that there are no problems with the data. I know the data is a bit unbelievable, but leadership, the data is real. For the first time, he explained frantically without waiting for the leader to speak. Put out all the proofs you have done in an attempt to convince your leaders. As a result, a laughing voice came from the other side of the phone and said, Xiao Yao, don't be nervous. I didn't say I didn't believe this data. Even if you are wrong, you won't be so wrong that you can't even take a glance at it. I just suspected it was fake. Yes, or your leader is looking at things from a higher perspective. I would only think about explanations and completely ignore this point. No matter how powerful I am, I can't be more powerful than Li Yuan. Mr. Li is a talented person. My subordinates have gained a lot of experience by following Mr. Li. I would like to thank the leader for giving me this opportunity. Xiao Yao, I didn't give you the opportunity, you took it yourself. Next, you have to continue to do your job well. If you have any problems, remember to tell me as soon as possible. You also know that this money is related. It is a pension issue for more than 400 million people, and it may even be related to the social security issue for 1.4 billion people in the future. If Li Yuan has any requirements, please remember to inform me as soon as possible. Anything can be discussed. Yes, I will keep an eye on these. Yao Yingsong heard that Li Yuan's data scared the leaders. This really cannot be described as luck, this is absolute strength. Li Yuan previously said that he would liquidate the company after earning us $10 billion every 2 to 3 months. Everyone thought he was bragging. But now, after 2 days of serious trading, 1.5 billion turned into 3.8 billion. People say 2 or 3 months, which is obviously too conservative. If such an operation happens again, Qingtian Global Mixed Selection will be liquidated tomorrow morning. Because according to the current net worth, if it increases by another 122%, the net worth can directly reach 5.7, and the total fund size can reach 8.4 billion US dollars. How close is it to liquidation? At this moment, his brain was obviously swollen, but he was still not sleepy at all. Regardless of the attitude of the leader or the consideration for his own future, what he is doing now is far from enough. How in the world can you buy some food and enjoy the credit for your contribution? It is true that you can make money by doing odd jobs, but in the end, it has little to do with you. The leader may even pick the peaches himself. At the moment, the leader must be testing things out, not sure what Li Yuan's attitude is. No one can resist such a big temptation. Li Yuan has the ability to earn more than 500 million US dollars every day, which is an incredible ability. How many people have to work hard to earn back the trade surplus by relying on low-end manufacturing? Although the domestic high-end manufacturing industry is also very strong, it ranks among the top in the world. However, the overall trade surplus still relies on mid to low-end manufacturing. Otherwise, how could others gain technological hegemony? There is a huge funding gap in many aspects of the country, including military industry, social security, pensions, medical insurance. Not to mention the whole Li Yuan, even if there is half of Li Yuan, all this will not be a big problem. This night was destined to be subversive. From being a collaborator, both parties began to gradually transform. Yao Yingsong was panicking. What he was panicking about was that he couldn't handle this overwhelming wealth. If he and Yeshen were in another place, things would be completely different. After catching this wave, from now on, who else can stop his rise? He took out his classmate group and immediately sent a message. Fathers, come to the rescue, help me check what you said yesterday, I'm going to die young. Soon, there were replies in the group. You call me adopted father. I haven't heard you call me adopted father for 4 years in college. It seems that something is really wrong. Yao Yingsong is a top academic, otherwise he would not be able to enter a major national foundation after graduation. Although other students have very high academic qualifications, their potential is a little lower than Yao Yingsong. They are basically in the local area, and few of them stay in the capital. Isn't that right? This is related to the future of your godson. Please help me, does anyone know Jiangzhou's administrative justice system? Please help me find out some things. What I said yesterday may not have been too formal, and many people didn't pay much attention to it. Today Yao Yingsong emphasized again, the result is completely different. Soon, someone started chatting with him privately, asking what the specific matter was. Yao Yingsong only knows that it is a relatively big thing in Jiangzhou recently. It happened 2 weeks ago. The specifics are not clear yet. I suppressed my sleepiness and chatted for 2 hours, and finally got the key words. Li Yuan, Yu Chenguang, Chenji. Many things happen in Jiangzhou every day, but this incident is quite special. It's low-key, but extremely sensitive. Is there any solution to this matter? I am just a little shrimp, how can I say such a thing? However, so far in this matter, only one Chenji has been arrested, and Yu Chenguang and other related personnel have fled. And according to the investigation, before the incident, Yu Chenguang, I have always wanted to seek cooperation with Li Yuan. Also, that Chenji even rented the house next door to Li Yuan. Is Chenji's matter serious? Seriously, if we can't catch Yu Chenguang, she won't have a chance to come out. Chenji should be the only one who knows where Yu Chenguang is, but now Chenji refuses to tell her. Do me a favor, I'm going to meet Chenji on Saturday and Sunday. You want my life? Chenji can't see anyone now. I'm just a new little character. Even if I go through the back door, I don't have the ability. Then can you send me some information? The child will definitely thank his adoptive father again in the future. Haha, just to say this to you, I will shamelessly get you a detailed copy and I will send it to you in the evening. Yao Yingsong could finally sleep peacefully. Even if I can only sleep for 4 or 5 hours. Just because he can't solve the problem doesn't mean that his leader can't solve it. Moreover, this is also an opportunity for his leader to pick peaches openly. He can't wait until others take the initiative, right? The boss has taken the initiative, so what else can happen to you? If you invite the leader to come down now, he will definitely be embarrassed to take them all away. Although their contributions and Li Yuan's contributions are two different things, there is no conflict at all. But if Li Yuan can be dealt with, he can still control the distribution power. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 186. It's around 9 o'clock on Wednesday night. After Li Yuan came to the company, he also took a look at the data from the morning. The overall data has no reference significance, because the short contract is still in hand, and so many chips are owed, and the floating profit on the book will be lost at any time. Today is very important, it is his opportunity to reduce the short contract. The traders also knew the real situation very well, so they were not surprised after reading the data. Li Yuan explained clearly that some people deliberately lowered the increase, otherwise even if they make money, they are unlikely to make a lot. The 5 stocks that have been holding on take up too much capital. If they remain at a high of 60 points, it would be good to make $500 million from short positions. As for how awesome Li Yuan is, isn't this a generally accepted fact? They are all veterans of the company. They knew Li Yuan was awesome from the first day they joined the company. So far, this concept has not changed. Even if Li Yuan really doubled his principal in one night, it would be reasonable. Yu is not a trader, nor does he understand the game very well, but these traders understand it very well. Li Yuan also made mistakes, but at least 90% of his instructions were all on the opponent's 7 inches. Even those erroneous instructions did not deviate too much. The difference between them and Li Yuan is that before Li Yuan gave those instructions, they never thought about doing that. It's open. As Li Yuan expected, the 2 stocks that took the lead in smashing the market yesterday still had no support today, and opened more than 10 points lower without any suspense. But something was wrong with the other 9 stocks that exploded in late trading yesterday. They opened more than a dozen points higher. Li Yuan could only call him a good guy because these people wanted to come and play. There is no money left on the market, and the funds are all in their own hands. If they drop a dozen points, they may put some funds into the market, but they still want to go up. This shows that after the market closed, this group of people met again with the simple purpose of exploding the short order in Li Yuan's hand. These 9 stocks were actually over when the market crashed by more than 10 or 20 points in the late morning. They didn't pose much of a threat to Li Yuan. Chun Chun came in today to deliver food. Similar to the market situation in the early morning, those stocks were pushed up in a straight line and were squeezed. Li Yuan could only continue to add short contracts. He couldn't make that much tonight because he didn't have any chips. Remember to steal some short orders to disrupt our pattern of only holding positions. To put it bluntly, even if the position is not liquidated, some short orders must be open to do so. Li Yuan wants to maximize the number of short orders he can hold today. At the beginning, the offensive of both sides was relatively slow, and the overall transaction was quite satisfactory. On Li Yuan's side, he didn't steal many short orders, only an extra 1 or 200 million US dollars in total. Half an hour later, the trading volume obviously accelerated a lot. Li Yuan looked at the market and laughed. Indeed, the stock price has been moving towards his liquidation line, but the question is, every time he covers his position for 20 million US dollars, what the hell is that stock trading for 40 million US dollars? Isn't this purely a rivalry? How many loose chips can there be? And it's such a coincidence that it's the same as his own funds. At this time, he knew that someone was sneaking away again. After midnight, they must have had a private meeting and agreed to continue suppressing Li Yuan's funds. But if human nature can be trusted, sows can climb trees. Intensify your efforts to steal short orders. He couldn't let his profits be cut off too much. If someone else steals an additional $20 million, he will lose an additional $20 million. Because the money he has now is enough to last for a long time. If they don't raise the stock price by another 50 points, they can't liquidate their positions. They had already consumed a lot of ammunition last night, and if they rushed in at all costs today, it really wasn't his problem. Yesterday there were some loose orders, but today they are completely gone. How much you can earn depends on how much your allies have. The 5 stocks that I had been clinging to yesterday unexpectedly stopped trading today. They rose by more than 10 points and then traded sideways. None of them hit Li Yuan's liquidation line. The trading volume is very disgusting, and it all follows Li Yuan's usual pattern of opening short orders. Going up to $20 million or $30 million. It gives people the illusion that Li Yuan has been opening short orders to defend. In fact, he did nothing. On the contrary, the other 9 stocks have been charging more aggressively, and he has opened 2 rounds of short orders so far. Another half hour passed, and after Li Yuan opened 4 rounds of empty orders, he decisively stopped. During this period, nearly 400 million US dollars of short orders were stolen, and in total, almost 1 billion US dollars of short orders were opened today. He also has a lot of cash on hand that can be leveraged. However, he still made a conservative plan. What if this was intentional on the part of those people on Wall Street? Deliberately induce yourself to open a large number of short orders at a low position, and finally pull up with all your strength. At that time, because he has opened a large number of short orders at a low level, he will have no funds in his hands later, and the pressure to hold the liquidation line will increase. In the current situation, he had almost nothing to do. There were plenty of people to help him hold the liquidation line. A financial company on Wall Street called David Capital. A middle-aged man with a big beard began to look at the data on the disk and fell into deep thought. Almost all the funds in his hand were invested. David Capital is not a large institution, its scale is only $780 million. He has a heavy position of $500 million in one stock. For the funds yesterday and today, he mobilized all available cash and even sold some other stocks during the session to increase his heavy holdings. Last night, they rarely sat together and discussed today's layout. They know that their opponents are very powerful. So I prepared to set up a game to let the opponent consume a lot of chips. This game is simple to say. That is to deliberately create signs of disunity, making the other party feel that someone is running away, and then take the opportunity to increase the short contract. In this way, a large amount of the other party's cash flow can be consumed, which is acceptable to them. After all, the money is in their own hands. Even if they take over some chips from their allies, they will be forced to buy chips in large quantities, no matter how high the cost. At that time, wouldn't those who held chips in their hands make a lot of money? In theory, it's a win-win situation for Wall Street. But what puzzles David is: did you hit your allies a little too much? He is about to raise his sign, and there is no one to help him share the pressure. Why is he still smashing it there? Is it overacting? The person who pulled the strings this time was a guy named Maurice Bale, who was famous in the industry for following the rules. This is why many people are willing to believe him. As for McPherson and Wilson, who were the first to be traders yesterday, Morris had already assured himself that he had the whereabouts of these two people. They two traders would not have a good life. Now David couldn't bear it anymore. He picked up the phone and called Morris. "Mr. Bill, I'm David. I need to tell you one thing. I don't have any funds in my hands anymore. I am poorer than the bankrupt homeless man on the roadside. Yes, I have no other way to take over. I hope my other friends can try harder. I think the opponent's funds have been almost exhausted, so I hope Mr. Bill can launch an attack. As long as the stock price goes up, everything he does today will be worth it. Even if there is really no way to make the opponent liquidate his position at that time, he can still sell some of his chips appropriately. Now the stock has only risen 20 points, and it will definitely rise to 40 points, 50 points, or even 60 points next. He will make money. Since 7 years ago, this group of them has had a tacit understanding, and everyone sits together to make a fortune. After so many years, I have barely used my brain and operated casually, and I can bring in a lot of funds to the company every year during the best months of performance." Then, he was earning tens of millions of dollars every year. It has nothing to do with so-called ability. They don't invest in companies, they just invest in stocks. There is almost no risk on the whole, because the participating stocks are almost completely controlled by them. If they let the stocks rise, the stocks will rise. Who needs profits? All it takes is a phone call to get allies to boost their profits. Whether it's cashing out tens of millions of dollars or increasing the net worth by 10 or 20 points, it's easy to satisfy investors. So they didn't think it was any surprise. The fluctuations in the late trading yesterday were due to the discovery of the betrayal of allies and the temporary indecision. There is absolutely no need to worry now. Someone has come forward and talked to everyone and they will not fail. Even though he has completely lost his operating space at this time, he still has a chance to win in the future. Morris and the others have a lot of data, and they know that their opponents have more than $8 billion in short contracts. Once the position is liquidated, such a large amount of money will flow into the market, and whoever has the chips in hand will make more. His current predicament is to wait for the profit. But at this time, he found that an order for his heavy stock position was suddenly completed. The amount of that order was very strange. 1,313 shares. Damn you bastard, who wants to use numbers like that? This is an unlucky number because at the Last Supper, there were 13 people at the table. No one likes to eat without a meal, so on most occasions, they avoid this number. How could someone do such a thing? And not only the stocks he has a heavy position in, but also the stocks in other allies have such a number. Moreover, after the numbers appeared, the transaction speed of the entire disk suddenly increased a lot. There are even some collapse situations. They were already frantically taking over, but there were so many chips that they had no time to react. The $20 million used to be regular, but now there is no regularity at all. It's not like the opponent's short order. This time he was a little panicked. Because the situation was out of control, in such a short time, the stock price not only did not rise, but fell by 2 points. Obviously the trading volume has gone crazy. Where's the money? So much money? Where have they all gone? In the past 3 days, he has invested nearly $200 million. Even if the opponent's short order is so frantically smashed, Morris's side should be promoted, right? This means that the opponent has already consumed a lot of funds in the low position, and it becomes easier to blow the opponent up next. Thinking back to the 1,313 stocks that suddenly appeared before, a kind of death breath lingered in his heart. He picked up the phone and said to Morris in an indifferent tone, "Bill, did you betray us?" "Sir, all we need is profit. We still have interests by destroying our opponents. This is not the reason for you to become a trader. Bill, traders will be crucified. No, honest people will be crucified. David's mind went blank, and the cold air failed to stop the sweat from flowing down his forehead. He gritted his teeth and showed an angry expression. But he knew that the other party couldn't see it. Finally, he asked, "Why? Can you tell me?" "Because we failed, our enemy was very cunning. He didn't invest all his funds at all. If we want to blow him up later, we will need another 10 billion US dollars, and we won't be able to come up with it. Then you can give up other stocks for the time being and focus on beating him up." David didn't accept this argument. The other party quickly said, "So what if it blows up?" "Sir, does it make sense for us to earn 20 billion US dollars from him? We have too many people, and our cash in the market has been wiped out. Too much was taken away." David understood. "I just feel that even if I beat my opponent, I won't make any money." In order to defeat their opponent, they suffered a lot of unnecessary losses, and with the presence of two traders, by the time the opponent has absorbed enough 20 billion US dollars in chips, the chips in other people's hands will become worthless. Overall, it may still be a loss. But now, at least for Morris, he will definitely not lose money. Instead, he can make hundreds of millions of dollars. Of course, Morris is definitely not the only one making money. There must be several or even a dozen of his allies making money. There was only one scene in his mind, that is, the dry season was ushering in the grassland, there was a food shortage, and the hyenas began to kill their companions in order to survive. In order to survive, you can do whatever it takes. Without external food as a supplement, internal companions are the best food reserves. There is no doubt that this time, at least 60 or 70 institutions have become the targets of more than 10 or 20 institutions. Unfortunately, David was eaten. He had no money left, only chips. At this time, the chips are like a prostitute's underwear, which can be pulled off with any money. "Mr. Bill, let me ask one last question, what if the other party enters the game?" Of course it will piss him off. After David heard the result, he hung up the phone. He knew that he had no chance to make a comeback. Selfish allies and cunning opponents are the main reasons for this failure. As long as one condition is missing, it will not fail so quickly. From the beginning, Morris designed this game to be able to advance and retreat. If you advance, you can blow up your opponent. If you retreat, you can transfer your chips and harvest your allies. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 187. After Li Yuan discovered that the situation was already collapsing, he decisively spent 200 million US dollars, leveraged up and rushed in directly. The last wave. There is no need to eat more. The next step is in his hands. Just like a certain kind of special fruit, the fruit farmers don't have much in hand and there are many dealers who want to buy it, so the pricing power naturally lies in the hands of the fruit farmers, and they don't have to worry about selling. The situation at this time is that there are too many goods in the hands of fruit farmers, and there are few fruit sellers who can buy them. However, those fruits have not been put away, and they will rot in the ground if they are put away. You don't want to sell? There are plenty of people willing to sell. Fruit sellers collect a fixed amount. Once they collect enough, they will no longer need it and will only rot. Li Yuan was like a fruit seller at this time, waiting for quotations from the fruit farmers. He will accept whoever quotes the lowest price. If the fruit farmer has the ability, he will get another sum of money, and then unite all the fruit farmers not to sell to him, so that he, the dealer, cannot receive it, and then set the price arbitrarily. After experiencing this, do those fruit farmers still dare? He has been stabbed by someone and is about to bleed to death. Instead of healing his wounds at this time, he is still going to fight? Waiting for their creditors to come asking for money? Steal his wife and daughter without paying him. Get him out of the house. After the leveraged short contract of $1.2 billion mobilized by Li Yuan was thrown out, everything collapsed. If caught early, millions of dollars may be saved. And this time, those who are leveraged will be miserable, while those who are not leveraged will still have a way to survive. As stock prices returned to horizontal levels, the first wave of selling occurred. That batch of long leveraged funds has been liquidated. After being forced out, all the chips were thrown down. No one dared to answer. The result of no one answering is that the price directly breaks down. The chain reaction of price breakdown is that more leveraged funds will be liquidated, even if it is too late to replenish the margin at this time. Because it fell by more than 20 points all at once, the margin required was a huge amount. With 6 times leverage, a dozen pips means losing everything. Even if only $30 million were used to leverage $180 million of leveraged funds, there would still be an amplitude of more than 40 points from the highest point to the present, and an additional $100 million would have to be added to prevent the position from being liquidated. How many people can easily come up with $100 million? So it was a series of explosions. Almost in a short period of time, the stock price dropped to 45 points underwater. Hurry up and get the chips. If it's under 40 points, no matter how much it is, take it. Li Yuan wants to eat meat immediately, and he won't wait any longer. The longer you wait, the greater the variability. Yesterday, his short order capital was $8.05 billion, with a floating profit of $2.1 billion, so today, it is equivalent to only $6 billion in short order funds. However, he continued to add $1 billion worth of short orders and finally added another $1.2 billion in short orders. Overall, it was still a bit more than yesterday. Although in theory the longer you wait, the cheaper the subsequent chips will be. But there is always a gap between reality and theory. Because there are unexpected factors in reality. What if other funds come in to take over? What if after a wave of Wall Street funds are harvested, there will be another round of withdrawals? They can also make a lot of dozens of points, and they can also save their allies a little, at least they will not let their allies jump over the wall and ambush them every day with guns. The number of chips in the first wave of liquidation was very large, totaling at least more than $3 billion. And no one dared to pick it up at first, but Li Yuan picked it up very smoothly. You know, this is $3 billion after a 45% drop. Converted to the opening price, it is $5.7 billion. In less than 10 minutes, Li Yuan ate up the chips. After a little more compensation, the stock price began to rise, and a total of $3.2 billion was made. Converted to the opening price, it was exactly $6 billion, because the chips eaten later were around 40 points, unlike the chips that were eaten at 45 points underwater at the beginning. Equivalent to part of his profit data today has been released. $6 billion minus $3.2 billion. Because he had eaten up all the chips from the liquidation, the overall chips shrunk sharply. Those who were not leveraged were now frightened, and no one dared to sell. As a result, the stock price began to rise, rising rapidly, and finally stabilized at about 17 points underwater. At this stage, Li Yuan didn't buy much at all because they didn't want to sell. After all, it's a broken bone deal. Li Yuan took advantage of the situation and took advantage of the situation, and there will still be negotiations later. Negotiations are definitely on the table. After all, at this time, Li Yuan still has a short contract of $4.3 billion to repay. How to maximize the benefits of the $4.3 billion depends on the outcome of the final negotiations. Of the $43 short order, $2.1 billion is yesterday's net profit. In theory, as long as it does not exceed yesterday's opening price today, you can get it all. But now that it has fallen, it is natural to make more money. Based on the current 17-point drop of us $2.1 billion, we can earn us $2.45 billion. The reason for this is that this data is just for the convenience of Li Yuan's memory, and he forcibly stripped out the previous data. In essence, the $2.1 billion is no different from the previous one. Now Li Yuan has forcibly given a profit property, cost is 0. For another $2.2 billion, short orders placed at an average of 17 points above water today still made more than 38 points even at the current position of 17 points below water. That is about $800 million. You only need to buy $1.4 billion in chips to repay it all. When we open the contract, we are only willing to undertake it at 35 points underwater. Li Yuan gave instructions to the trader. Those people are only willing to give up 17 points? It was impossible for him to accept it. Now that he has firmly settled on Diaotai, he does not have many short orders in his hand. If they have the ability, they will go and get money, then drive up the stock price and ask him to make a margin call. He is too flexible now. With more than $3 billion in cash and $2.1 billion in short contracts, he can only have a safe line of liquidation if the stock price doubles today. Want him to make a margin call? Those people on Wall Street, let's invest $10 billion first. Soon, the trader made the contract and waited for the other party's response. There are basically only sporadic transactions now. It is estimated that some retail investors came in to try their luck. But no one has to delay. If it continues, other institutions will find that if they directly enter the market to short, Wall Street will lose a lot, and Li Yuan will also lose part of the profits. Because there are always people who can clearly see the situation and see clearly that short selling now is a guaranteed profit without losing money. Li Yuan took over at 35 points underwater, so they would have to bear the fluctuation from 35 points underwater to 17 points underwater. This is also big meat. Soon, the other side reacted and they began to sell a large number of sell orders near 20 points. Li Yuan didn't want to wait any longer and ordered directly, open all our demand contracts. They want to sell or not? We only need a little. If we are late, we will be gone. The traders soon began to sell all the contracts. According to the position of 35 points underwater, his net profit capital of us $2.1 billion can still earn another us $735 million. The other $2.2 billion in short contracts that are about 17 points above the water will earn about 60 points, which is about $1.3 billion. It seems that almost all of the remaining $4.3 billion can be obtained. Li Yuan only reacted at this time. He looked at the trader, who was already finished. A contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He asked. One of the traders immediately said, "Boss, $346.50 million. Well, bite this position to death." Li Yuan's rough calculation of the data is definitely inaccurate, as there are various transaction fees and the like, plus the size is so large. The trader's calculation based on the number of contracts is the most accurate data. Because if you move up 1 point, the loss is not more than $3 million, but more than $40 million. Once it goes up 10 points, it means a loss of $400 million in profit. If they were to pick it up at 20 points underwater, it would be equivalent to a loss of 15 points of profit, which would be us $600 million. He's not worth that much yet. After showing that he only needed a small amount of chips, someone gave him the chips almost instantly. Because if you don't give it, no one will really want it. The situation suddenly became sober. The stock price starts to rise, and no one is willing to continue selling at this time. Next, let's slowly open short orders. When the stock price rises a little more, use $1 billion to open short orders. No more leverage. Don't open too many at one time. Try to open 200 million US dollars tonight and tomorrow night 300 million US dollars. Next he needs to find a new place, this place has been ruined. But if we continue to open empty orders, we will definitely be able to eat some meat. These tickets had no chance to come up, and their blood was taken in turns, especially since he had withdrawn billions of dollars. Originally, the total market value of these stocks was only 120 to 30 billion US dollars. At the highest point last night, the total market value may have exceeded 200 billion US dollars, but they are all bubbles. This time, he wasn't the one who drew the most blood. Those who drew the most blood should be their own people on Wall Street, who took away at least 13 billion US dollars. The total market value of more than 100 billion US dollars has been evacuated to nearly 20 billion US dollars. What is left in it? Just like a cow, all the meat has been removed, and flies will slip on it. Tang Monk ate it without violating the precepts. Finally, he pried open the marrow and found that it was empty. What valuable things are left? A cow weighs 1,000 kilograms, which is actually only 800 kilograms of meat. This is the financial bubble. In essence, there are not that many things. Using a huge framework, plus some incidental parts and functions, the real materials of 20 billion are turned into a value of more than 100 billion. It is inevitable that the stock price will fall next. Slowly wait for the injection of new blood. If no new funds enter the market, everyone will die. He was actually dangerous on several occasions, especially in the early hours of Wednesday morning. However, Wall Street was also under great pressure at that time. Li Yuan could still spend 6 to 7 billion US dollars in the future. No matter how hard they tried, they would not dare to continue to spend tens of billions of dollars that day. Plus there are traders. Tonight, they all relied on their own internal changes. In fact, he didn't do much trading. On the one hand, he smells the smell of conspiracy, and on the other hand, he has too many empty contracts, and the risk itself is very high. It's fine up front, but it's not worth taking that kind of risk when it's time to harvest. He didn't want to stay in the trading room anymore, so he said, "Just do as I said, don't use other funds, I'm going back first." After saying this, he opened the door to the trading room. My overall spirit was really not very good during this period. The sleep time is still 8 or 9 hours, but the problem is that I start dreaming when I lie down, and when I wake up, it feels like I haven't slept. He was in this state in his previous life, and he only slept comfortably during a gastroscopy in the hospital. Because I had general anesthesia. He was even a little addicted to that feeling. The mental state after deep sleep is really different from usual, and the whole person is energetic in whatever I do. After finishing this issue, take a good rest. Damn, I'm only 19 years old. Trading for 10 days is more tiring than staying up all night in an internet cafe for a month. When he walked out of the trading room and saw Yao Yingsong looking through some information, Li Yuan said, "Manager Yao, I'm leaving first. I won't be coming to the company for the next few days." "Okay, boss, walk slowly." Yao Yingsong saw the tiredness in Li Yuan's expression, which was a very bad sign. Li Yuan's current stall is so big that he has given up all his options. He just left after trading for 2 hours today, which is also unusual. Maybe Li Yuan himself is not in a good mood, plus today's profit. Anyway, no matter where Li Yuan reaches, he is someone he should look up to. Even if he loses money, he will definitely make it back when Li Yuan adjusts his condition. At this time, he had read all the causes and consequences of Chen Ji's case. He would just sort out the issues and report them to his leader tomorrow. This can only happen if the leader comes forward, and there is still some hope. Late at night, Ye Shen was called over by his father in the capital. He has already fallen asleep. After all, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. He has been living a very comfortable life recently. He has been transferred back to the capital. Although there are no big projects to be responsible for, at least he is not hanging around outside. Take your time to gain qualifications. At worst, if you wait for more than 10 years, you can always move up. After all, the background of the Ye family lies here. Otherwise, ordinary people do not have the authority to transfer at will, and they have to be wherever the leaders ask them to be. He came to the study room sleepily, saw his father, and asked, "Dad, are you working overtime again today?" Yasin, who is in his 50s, is sitting in front of his desk with a report in his hand. "Well, we had a meeting. It was during this meeting that I saw some data. I remember that you were in Zhangzhou before, and you were responsible for cooperating with Li Yuan, right?" Yesheng was surprised and said, "Yes." Yasin stared at Yesheng and asked, "Then why did you leave?" "I don't think there is any future in cooperating with Li Yuan." "Dad, you don't know that Li Yuan is so arrogant that he never talks about anything, and his reputation is not directly proportional to his strength. He dominates the domestic market, but when he goes to foreign markets, he will be gone." They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 188. Yasin shook his head. "My son, who is also in his 30s, is past the age where he can still be beaten and scolded. If he was in his 20s, he might have taken off his belt and pulled it on." He said helplessly, "This is the last time my family will help you. Please take this report and read it yourself." When Yesheng heard this, his heart skipped a beat. I quickly picked up the report and read it. This report is very simple. It mainly contains the data of Qingtian Global Select Mixed Fund. Fortunately, it was said a few days ago that he had sorted it out, with a daily profit of more than $100,000. But the data in the past 2 days is completely subversive. In the early morning of Tuesday, the profit was 14 points. In the early morning of Wednesday, the floating profit was 122 points. 2 days combined, the fund with a scale of $1.5 billion has reached $3.8 billion. "Dad, this..." He was confused after reading it. Yasin said, "You don't suspect that there is something wrong with this data, right? Do you know that just because of this data, we held the meeting until 12 o'clock at night? I don't want to scold you today. I will go back to Zhangzhou during the day and do it with Yao Yingsong. Just hand over." "Dad, what are you..." The moment Yesheng saw the report, he felt so regretful that his intestines turned green. He only needs to hold on for 2 more days, and the situation will be completely different. Now Yao Yingsong took away the credit so easily. He was originally extremely regretful, but after hearing what his father said, his spirits were shaken. Yasin waved his hand and said, "I just told you that this is the last thing the family will do for you. If you can't even handle this, just stay at home honestly from now on." Yesheng immediately said, "Dad, don't worry, I will not let the family down." His whole body became excited. This is the advantage of having a big family behind you. Even if you make a wrong decision, you still have room for error. Yao Yingsong is very lucky, so what? At this time, you still have to give up your position obediently. As long as he persists until the end, who will think Yao Yingsong deserves credit? "But, Dad, how did you do it?" "With Li Yuan's gains, leadership Yao Yingsong shouldn't be able to easily replace him, right?" He and Yao Yingsong were in the same department, and neither knew the income situation, which meant that the leader was deliberately hiding the matter. Yasin said, "I just analyzed the risk of Li Yuan's position with him. Li Yuan's excess return means that he is taking a huge risk, so the actual return is definitely not that high. In short, the face of the family is still worth some money." They were meeting to analyze Li Yuan's position data and found that Li Yuan's short position was extremely risky. Everything was just a floating profit. It was almost certain that he would lose money today. Even if he doesn't lose money, Li Yuan doesn't have much room for maneuver, and he won't have such outrageous income data anymore. Li Yuan is very strong, they admit it. But the Ye family's reputation was not cheap, so he could barely give Ye Sheng another chance. Yes, the profit of more than 100 points is really terrifying. Extreme trading techniques must have been used. There are definitely risks. Go back and rest quickly. Get up early tomorrow. Okay, Dad, please go to bed early. After Ye Sheng returned to his bedroom, he didn't fall asleep for a long time. I booked a flight ticket as soon as possible and arrived in Zhangzhou at around 11 noon. Then I handed over to Yao Yingsong and enjoyed tomorrow's profits. He hoped that Li Yuan could be grateful today and start making money after he left. After the market closed, Yao Yingsong waited for the traders to finish their meals and put away their garbage before entering the trading room to sort out the data. He was mentally prepared enough, but as data appeared one after another, his jaw dropped. Today is even more exaggerated than yesterday. Yesterday, there were still some not very profitable transactions, a few points or a dozen points. And today? There is no single transaction that makes less than 30 pips of profit. At first, he thought that Li Yuan left early today because the transaction did not go smoothly. It only took him half an hour to sort out today's data before he discovered that Li Yuan left early because he had finished today's work. Yesterday's high float made him feel magical enough, but today it was even more outrageous. All short contracts were repaid, and another $200 million in short orders were subsequently placed. Currently, the total account funds have reached a terrifying $8.7 billion. Yesterday's floating profit was not locked, but today it is all locked. A total of $6.6 billion in profits has been locked in today, plus the initial $7.7 billion, for a total of $8.3 billion. In addition to the $200 million short contract, there is still $400 million restricted, for a total of $8.7 billion. If the short contract of $200 million was not subsequently operated, the account should have $8.5 billion. This money belongs to the fund, and the other $200 million does not belong to the fund. It entered the account after a short order was issued and is in an inoperable state. As a result, today's actual funds can only be calculated as $8.5 billion. The data is out. Net worth, 5.6667, add 123.6%. Well, it's just ordinary, earning $4.7 billion. Is it weird? Call. Today's work is very easy. Before 7 o'clock, the report has been sorted out. Doubling in one day is still possible in the entire financial market with some luck and a small amount of funds. But it doubled for 2 consecutive days and quintupled for 3 days. He wanted to ask, who else? Don't come here with just tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Li Yuan earned $7 billion in 3 days. On average, they earn 14 billion a day. Looking back, I was shocked when I saw a profit of more than 10 points on the first day. Now he seems to be a bitch. It seems that I can take a vacation tomorrow morning. Because according to the contract, after reaching $10 billion, the fund will be liquidated and then enter the second phase. During this period, I will definitely take a few days off. With a noble person like Li Yuan here, even a pig should take off on the ground, right? In his life, he never thought that he would get such an opportunity. Guessing that the leader hadn't gone to work yet, he went back to his residence to wash up, and then sent the report to the leader around 8 o'clock. As soon as the results were sent, the leader called. He quickly answered. Because he happened to have something to report to his boss about Chenji. Xiao Yao, thank you for your hard work. The moment the call was connected, I heard the leader's words. Yao Yingsong's heart skipped a beat. It's definitely not a good thing when a leader says something like this at the beginning. The leader either said these words to hinder the situation, or he used these words to give his subordinates psychological comfort. In addition, he just sent the report today, and the phone rang, and the leader must not have had time to read it. Leader, this is my job. It's you who have to do the hard work. I have to trouble you to check my work every day. Haha, Xiao Yao, you are too humble. Your ability is obvious to all of us. A new position has recently appeared. Are you interested in challenging yourself? Yao Yingsong. What the hell is this? I'm doing a good job here, why would I want to go somewhere else? What kind of bullshit is challenging yourself, isn't it just a job with nothing? Damn it if you can do it well. But the leader has said what he said, and he has no ability to ask the leader to take it back. But he still asked uncertainly, Boss, won't you let me be in charge of Qingtian Capital? You have such a strong ability, wouldn't it be a waste of talent to put it in Qingtian Capital? Li Yuan from Qingtian Capital is already very strong. It would be a waste of your talent to put you, a strong player, next to Li Yuan. At noon, I will talk to Ye. It shouldn't be too much trouble for Sheng to hand over the job. After all, Ye Sheng is also familiar with work. As for you, you can also take the opportunity to rest for 2 days. I will help you handle your new work arrangements. There is a lot of work for you this time. I really don't trust it if it's important to leave it to others. Yao Yingsong's face had become very ugly. To put it bluntly, aren't you just here to pick peaches? He thought about the fate of his leader, and even made excuses to let the leader take the maximum credit. Unexpectedly, before I could make arrangements, my boss kicked me out. Ye Sheng. Grass. What is the difference between this and Mingqiang? Originally, Li Yuan's credit this time was enough to cover up everything. The most they could do was add their own names to the credit book. As a result, now, he has been deprived of even the opportunity to add a name to his name. Thank you for the leader's appreciation. I will make a good handover with Brother Ye. He had absolutely no choice. As for Chenji, he was too lazy to talk about it. What a nonsense, this matter has nothing to do with me at all. After hanging up the phone, he felt a little decadent. Without background and resources, no matter how good he is at studying, it will be of no use. Even if there is an opportunity, he cannot seize it at all. I can only endure it, but I won't be able to achieve anything famous in this life. Unless his children are as good as himself, then when he is 40 or 50 years old, he will not have any power in his hands. Then if your child encounters an opportunity like his, he will be able to seize it. However, life can never be so smooth. He has already spent a lifetime of luck on this opportunity, so he still expects his child to be outstanding as well? Do you still expect your children to have such an opportunity? The possibility of acquiring a ton of mosquito legs is higher than this. He couldn't sleep anymore, all his sleepiness was gone. Finally, a message was sent to Li Yuan. Boss, thank you for allowing me to experience the peak of my life for a few days. I never thought that I would encounter such a good thing. It is precisely because of your light that even a mediocre person like me can I have received the honor. Now I am appreciated by the leader and entrusted with important tasks. It is all given by you. Although such a small thing is not even necessary for you to remember, but I am still grateful to have you in my life. Your Excellency. I will hand over to my colleagues at noon. I will never forget the past few days at Qingtian Capital. I wish my boss good health and happiness to my family. There is absolutely no need for financial resources or anything like that. Because Li Yuan is the greatest god of wealth. More than 10 billion a day, and 7 money printing machines have to be operated to keep up. He felt very unhappy and even thought about complaining to Li Yuan a little bit. But at any time, it is the most basic quality not to complain about the leader or say bad things about the leader. On Yesheng's side, although they are colleagues, it is not a good habit to belittle others. If you can belittle Yesheng, you can belittle others in the future. Anyone who is friends with you must be careful, in case the relationship fades in the future, you will also say bad things behind your back. So in the end, he didn't say anything and even embellished the fact that he was transferred. This way, it has no impact on anyone. About a few minutes later, he received a reply from Li Yuan. "Thank you, and I wish you a bright future." Yao Yingsong didn't send anything more. Li Yuan could reply a message, which was already a great honor. Never feel that when chatting with a leader, the last sentence means that the leader did not end well. Maybe the leader doesn't want to talk for a long time, but he can't save his face. After 9 o'clock, Yao Yingsong started to feel sleepy. At this time, his phone rang. After the call was connected, the voice of his college roommate came. "Old Yao, you didn't sleep." Yao Yingsong: "Nonsense, you can still answer the phone when you are asleep. If you have something to say, just say it, and if you have something to say, fart." "No, no, you don't even want to call me foster father." "What a fart, buddy, I'm feeling agitated right now." "Then I have good news, do you want to hear it?" "Explain." "Your brothers and I took the risk and sent a message to Chenji, saying that the people around Li Yuan wanted to meet her, but guess what? She agreed. Do you know how difficult this is? Her being able to speak has always been the biggest problem. Now that she takes the initiative to ask to see outsiders, it shows that her inner defenses have begun to relax, which will be of great help to subsequent investigations. Let me tell you, my brother really tried his best this time. If he is found out, he will at least receive internal punishment. But now, he is no longer at Qingtian capital. Does he still need to please Li Yuan? Can you help Li Yuan solve his problems? Hey, where are you? Hurry up and come over in the afternoon. Whether you can get things done depends on the 1-hour meeting time in the afternoon." Finally, Yao Yingsong took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll go there in the afternoon. Thank you foster father for your help. No matter what, it's all trouble for my friends. If you don't finish it well, I'll be sorry." Even if it meant nothing to him, it didn't matter. Even if you have to lose some rest time. I don't have any work anyway, so it's not easy to sleep. At 11 o'clock, he received a message from Yesheng, saying that he was almost there. Then, he waited until 12 o'clock before Yesheng showed up. It turned out that Yesheng had just gotten off the plane at 11 o'clock. Yao Yingsong didn't want to complain about anything. He would never dare to call the plane he just got off the plane almost arrived at any time and let others wait for an hour. He could have been confused for a while, but he insisted on holding on for an hour because Yesheng said it was almost time. "Brother, yeah, I'll leave first." "Okay, go back and have a good rest." "Okay, I know." Yao Yingsong turned and left. Yesheng's leadership-like words made him even more irritated. Oh shit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 189. Yao Yingsong dragged his exhausted body to the interview room and saw Chenji through the thick glass. There is no doubt that Chenji is a very beautiful woman. Even in her current situation, she still behaves so elegantly and confidently. "Hello, my name is Yao Yingsong. I used to be the general manager of Qingtian capital." Chenji frowned when he heard this. The general manager of Qingtian capital seems to be Yu Yu. She had thought that Yu Yu had something important to say. It can be seen from what happened last time that Yu has a high position around Li Yuan and can serve as Li Yuan's spokesperson to a certain extent. But Yao Yingsong, she had no impression at all. And he said he was the general manager before. What about you now? Chen Ji asked. Yao Yingsong said awkwardly, I just resigned today, and I will return to the National Fund in the future. National Big Fund. Yes, I am assigned to Qingtian Capital from a large national fund. Chen Ji thought for a while and asked, then what is your purpose in finding me? If it were yesterday, I hope that Miss Chen can go out. Without Miss Chen on Mr. Li's side, many things will go wrong. But now that I have resigned, I came to see Miss Chen mainly because I don't want to make it difficult for my friends who are helping me. By the way, let me tell Ms. Chen something about my boss. Chen Ji frowned, you are no longer at Qingtian Capital, so he is not your boss. But Yao Yingsong smiled, and with a tired expression, he looked a little forced. Actually, I quite hope that he is my boss. At least in front of him, I won't be kicked out for no reason. Oh, besides these, what else do you want to say? Yao Yingsong pondered for a moment and said, sometimes the things that Ms. Chen insists on may not necessarily make sense. You might as well consider that life should not be so simple, nor should it be defined like this. I have said all I need to say, this a meeting has no other meaning, and any decision made by Miss Chen has nothing to do with me. After he finished speaking, he was about to get up and leave. But Chen Ji stopped him directly and asked, did Li Yuan really not say anything? Yao Yingsong said, my appearance has proved it, hasn't it? Chen Ji nodded. Yao Yingsong's meaning is very simple. Regardless of whether Li Yuan said it or not, at least Li Yuan has successfully made people pay attention to her. If Li Yuan had no attitude, no one would associate the two with each other. Whether implicit or explicit, it doesn't matter. It is unrealistic to expect Li Yuan to express himself at all costs. There is not much friendship between the two. Regardless of whether she recruits him or not, as long as Li Yuan expresses some emotions, someone will consider his feelings and won't make Chen Ji's life particularly difficult. Today there is Yao Yingsong, and tomorrow there may be Yao Yingsong's leadership, or even his leadership's leadership. That night, Ye Sheng came to the company. Of course he saw Wednesday's earnings. It's crazy, so crazy that there isn't much room left for him. Maybe the goal will be reached in one day and then liquidated. He was a little disappointed. The 3 days with the most achievements were actually spent in the hands of Yao Yingsong. He was also very grateful that his family helped him quickly win this position. Otherwise, Yao Yingsong would have left with all the credit 1 day later. This time, the credit had nothing to do with him. He waited enthusiastically for the company's traders and greeted everyone politely. But what surprised him was that when the market was about to open, Li Yuan never came. He stopped the last trader and asked, where is Mr. Li? Aren't you coming tonight? The boss is not coming tonight. Didn't Manager Ye receive the message? Ye Sheng. What the hell, Yao Yingsong didn't tell him that Yu was also very busy today, so the two of them didn't talk at all. As for Li Yuan, the two of them left their phone numbers and no WeChat messages. He sent a message to Li Yuan, but got no reply at all. At this time, he had a bad thought in his mind. Could it be that Li Yuan was playing him? Not coming on purpose? 7 hours were extremely torturous for him. Finally, when the market closed, the traders came out and immediately asked, nothing to eat tonight? Ye Sheng asked doubtfully, what to eat? Forget it, let's go. The traders seemed unwilling to stay longer and left immediately. Ye Sheng felt baffled. Are these people asking themselves to order takeaway for them? He is the general manager, not an assistant. If Li Yuan asked him, he could do it. After all, pleasing Li Yuan meant a lot to him. But Li Yuan didn't give any orders at all. Then, He went to the trading room and started sorting out today's reports. Soon, he realized something was wrong. Damn, I didn't make any money today. Several $100 million of short orders were opened, and the overall stock price barely changed. The final net worth increased by less than half a point. He didn't even know how to send the report to the leader. When Yao Yingsong was here, all kinds of skyrocketing prices defied logic, but when he took over, everything suddenly stalled. Grass. He finally bit the bullet and sent the report. There is no doubt that what greeted him was the leader's question. Leader, Li Yuan didn't come to the trading room at all last night, so. Yes, I also think Li Yuan may be delayed by something. I will try my best to establish contact with him to ensure that this project proceeds normally and strive to complete the first phase of the contract as soon as possible. He gave assurance on the phone. Then he took the initiative to call Li Yuan. Then, after the phone rang a few times, it was hung up ruthlessly. He was confused. Because he felt a bad breath. Then he sent a text message to Li Yuan, explaining his situation and asking when Li Yuan would be free. The message generally fell into the sea without any reply. He waited for another 2 hours. He was already very sleepy and called Li Yuan again. He felt that after so long, Li Yuan should have been busy with whatever he had to do, right? Then the call was hung up again. Grass. His whole body was not well. This was definitely Li Yuan's deliberate attempt to stumble him. But he really couldn't stand it any longer, so he could only sleep first. He didn't arrive at the company until around 9 o'clock on Friday night, and some traders had already arrived in advance. But after waiting until 10:30, out of 10 traders, only 6 came. He took a look at the company's internal clock-in system and discovered that 4 people had asked for leave. Li Yuan undoubtedly still didn't come. He was already 100% sure that Li Yuan did it on purpose. I don't answer the phone, I don't reply to my messages, and the company doesn't come to me. The net worth after the close on Saturday morning was also almost unchanged. Because the 6 traders did almost nothing and stayed in the trading room for several hours. Isn't this aimed at him? He did not dare to send today's report for fear of being misunderstood by his boss. After saying that he was here, Li Yuan became angry. Li Yuan's priority currently exceeds that of anyone else. But now, he can only start elsewhere. For example, over there in U. When it was past 8 o'clock, he wanted to cross over, but he suddenly realized that today was Saturday. You rested. He couldn't delay it any longer, so he could only explain to the leader that Li Yuan didn't come, and the trader didn't even come. The excuse must be that Li Yuan is busy with other things. It can't be said that Li Yuan is targeting him, right? That's an easy solution, just replace yourself. After all, there is almost no cost to replace yourself. Who dares to replace Li Yuan? It was probably because of his sincerity that he moved the leader, and in the end he did not continue to pester him. But he knew that this matter must be resolved next week. So he called Yu directly. Mr. Yu, this is Yesheng. I have something to ask. Is Mr. Li very busy recently? Is there anything I can help with? Soon, Yu's voice came, Manager, yeah, we just have to do our own thing. The boss will handle it himself, so we don't have to worry about it. What Yesheng cares about is not Li Yuan's personal affairs, he cares about his own achievements. I just want to help Mr. Li solve the problem as soon as possible. After all, Mr. Li hasn't come to the company for several days, and I have been criticized several times by the leader. Yu said with a smile, Manager, yeah, the company is the boss's company. If he wants to go, he can go. If he doesn't want to go, he can't go. Yesheng. If Li Yuan doesn't come, do you expect those traders? They are simply a bunch of idiots. Even one of them asked for leave. At this time, Yu continued, By the way, a few traders have asked for leave because they have gastrointestinal problems. Yasheng didn't dare to say anything to Li Yuan, but he was just a few traders and he didn't care. He said, "Mr. Yu, why is it such a coincidence that 4 people have stomach discomforts at once?" These words directly angered Yasheng. Originally, Yu and Yao Yingsong had a very happy cooperation, but Yao Yingsong also kept his attitude low and even took the initiative to take on some responsibilities. As a result, he was replaced inexplicably. He is also a veteran, and even though he has never been in their circle, he can probably guess it. This Yasheng is nothing. I have to ask manager yet. If something like this happens, should you reflect on yourself? Is there something you didn't do well? Traders are very hard-working. They trade on an empty stomach every day and have to bear a lot of pressure. Originally, when manager Yao was there, he arranged breakfast for them, but they didn't prepare anything to eat at home. As a result, several people were very hungry yesterday morning. They went out to eat something and accidentally had diarrhea. Isn't it normal? Manager Ye did not do his job well, and the employee had a physical problem. Could it be that the fault also lies with the employee? When manager Yao was here, nothing like this had ever happened. The last sentence can be said to have deeply stung Yasheng's sensitive nerves. He was getting angry at first, and the last sentence was Yu's provocation to him. Perhaps this was what Li Yuan had instructed. Those traders are just acting together. Yu, what do you mean? Literally. What do you mean? You want me, a general manager, to buy meals for my subordinates? To be a nanny for my subordinates? So this is how you understand it? Haha, you can make it clear that you are deliberately trying to embarrass me. There is no need to make such excuses. Yao Yingsong's matter is not something I can decide. I can understand that Mr. Li won't answer my call, but what qualifications do you have to do this to me? Say. When Yu heard this, he immediately scolded, "When did you call the boss?" Of course it was yesterday morning and afternoon. Damn it, you idiot, don't you know that the boss needs to rest during the day? You beat me in the morning and in the afternoon. Are you afraid that the boss will have a peaceful sleep? You bitch, where are you? I'm going to do something about it. Kill you. Of course Yu was very angry, because something was wrong with Li Yuan yesterday and he didn't reply until very late. In the past, he would send a summary of the day's work to let Li Yuan know about the company's situation. After reading it, Li Yuan would basically give him a call and ask some questions. But yesterday, Li Yuan replied very late, "Got it?" It is clear that the mood is very bad. After working on it for a long time, it was this bitch Yasheng who called Li Yuan in broad daylight. Is he a bad guy? Doesn't he know that his boss needs to race against time to sleep during the day? Every time a phone call wakes you up, how long do you have to struggle to fall asleep? It's strange to have such a good temper. What do you mean? Mr. Li didn't come to the company on Thursday. How could he be resting during the day? Yasheng didn't believe it at all. Yu yelled, "Do you think they all have pig brains like you? You can fall asleep when you are full and sleep for most of the day? If you have the ability of a boss, why do you need to be a bad commissioner? The boss is for your fund, how many brain cells die every day, you just sort out the data lightly, and use your pig brain to take a look at the results. Do you know how much effort the boss has to put in behind each transaction? You don't know anything, so you just use your pig brain to see the results. Pig brain defines others. In order to do every detail well, the boss forces himself to adjust to the biological clock of the stock market every day, but it is destroyed by you, an idiot. You are not even as good as a pig. Even if a pig is incapable, at least you won't do bad things either. How can you, a guy like you, be qualified to drive away Yao Yingsong? Are your leaders also a bunch of pig-brained people? You. Yesheng's face turned red from the rebuke. Even through his cell phone, he couldn't wait to have a fight with Yu. When had he ever been scolded like this? Yesheng, take care of yourself. If you dare to cause trouble for the boss again, get out of here immediately. In my eyes, you are nothing but bullshit. Don't treat yourself like a green onion, this is Qingtian capital, not a big national fund, no one will tolerate it holding you. Yu hung up the phone angrily. Yesheng was left holding his mobile phone with a ferocious face. At this time, Li Yuan was at home, tossing and turning in bed unable to sleep. It's already 10:30 in the morning. Yesterday's several phone calls had an impact. In fact, the most important thing was his own body's struggle. The biological clock is very difficult to change. The body is unwilling to fall asleep, and even if it is forced to sleep, the quality of sleep is extremely poor. Irritability, inability to concentrate, and lightheadedness are the most obvious symptoms. It takes at least half a year to slowly adapt. At this moment, the doorbell rang. He became more agitated. Because Zhang Yuling will not come back, and others will not come. He got out of bed. If it was that bitch Yesheng, he would definitely get angry. I came to attend a classmate's wedding today, so, there may only be one chapter. I will try my best to take the time to write the second chapter. If I can't write it, I would like to say sorry to everyone. I will make an update tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, which is double compensation. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 190. Chen Ji at the door was dressed simply. So simple that you can see the electronic lock on her ankle. Li Yuan said in surprise, Sister Chen, why are you here? Chen Ji had a faint smile on her face, and two shallow dimples were looming. I see your signature is for taking in homeless girls. Do you take that, young woman? Li Yuan smiled and said, Sister Chen, did you remember it wrong? My signature is blank. A trace of disappointment flashed across Chen Ji's face, and she whispered, maybe I remembered it wrong. I'll go find that person. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he saw Chen Ji turning and leaving. At the end of the corridor, she suddenly turned around, holding the phone in her right hand and waving to Li Yuan. Soon she turned back and said to Li Yuan, I did remember it wrong. Your signature said you wanted to take in homeless young women. At this time, Li Yuan's personal signature was displayed on the screen of her mobile phone. A 19-year-old strong man takes in a 24-year-old homeless young woman. Well, that's because I remembered it wrong. I'll keep it for now until you go somewhere else. Li Yuan moved aside, and Chen Ji immediately walked in sideways. Have you got a meal yet? Not yet, Ang, let me cook for you to pay for the room. Ha, then Sister Chen will be wronged. I have always been very picky about food. Okay. Chen Ji put down the bag in her hand and checked the refrigerator first. Li Yuan actually didn't have much to eat here, but occasionally he wanted to reserve some and put it in the refrigerator. It was no problem to make up a breakfast for the time being. There is not much time today, after all, it is already this time. Chen Ji washed her hands and started cooking noodles. For a bowl of shredded chicken noodles, she tore the chicken into long strips of even size, almost the same thickness as the noodles. She simmered the chicken in water again and served it to Li Yuan half an hour later. When Li Yuan saw it for the first time, he found it to be ordinary because it lacked the orange color of chicken soup. It's a little different from the normal vision before. But overall it looks very refreshing and less greasy. The biggest fear below is that it is too dry. Some of them either have too little water, or the inside of the noodles is still dry. Although you don't need to be too precise to grasp the heat, it also requires a certain amount of patience. Don't boil the water a few times before you feel the heat is up, otherwise you will eat uncooked noodles and your appetite will be greatly reduced. Of course, you can't overdo it, otherwise the whole noodles will absorb too much water, which will not only taste tasteless, but will also give people a false feeling of fullness. He picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. Instantly, the faint taste of chicken soup appeared in his mouth. The noodles and shredded chicken went perfectly together. He couldn't tell whether it was noodles or meat, so he ate it all together. The smooth noodles have a very delicate texture inside and out, and the dry shredded chicken becomes a lot smoother when paired with it. The two can be said to complement each other. The shredded chicken is not that delicious, and the noodles are not that delicious either. When paired together, they unexpectedly taste the best. He didn't know how Chenji got out, but he knew how he got in. Sister Chen, with your skills, you can work as a chef in any restaurant. Chenji said softly, the wages in restaurants are not high, and if something goes wrong with the food, you will have to take the blame. If I don't go to a private restaurant, at least the boss will protect me. Haha, at Sister Chen's level, if you don't want to take the blame, who can force you? It is always affected by many things. My parents helped purchase the expired ingredients that the boss illegally used. What about Sister Chen now? I heard that there was a boss who was willing to hire me at a high price, so I wanted to give it a try. Anyway, my reputation is gone. If someone is willing to take me in, I will definitely have to work harder. She came out not because she betrayed some information about Yu Chengguang. Just trade some of the information you have. He went through some previous confessions to prove that he was not guilty of much crime. And she only came out temporarily, and she was still being monitored. No one knows what will happen in the future. What if that boss has bad intentions? He doesn't bother to let me take the blame. It would be embarrassing for someone like me to take the blame. Li Yuan took a deep breath and asked, Chenji spoke so highly of him. Did he say it himself? Or did he hear it from others? The news is what you hear from others, and the rest is what you feel. Who said that? A man named Yao Yingsong. Li Yuan. How could this guy think of this? At first, he wanted to inquire about Chenji, but he didn't want to do it openly, so he just asked Zhang Yuanqiao. Immediately afterwards, I had a few words with Yu. My original intention was to wait for the result of Chenji's case and let him inform me. How did Yao Yingsong know? Then Sister Chen, please stay with me for now, and then go there when you find a good place. I'll give you the door lock code. As for access control and the like, Chenji definitely has it. And the house opposite hers has not been sealed. Li Yuan will definitely want to investigate how Chenji got out and whether he betrayed Yu Chengguang. If so, then he has to be on guard, even if he doesn't have any pain points. Soon, while Chenji was clearing away the dishes, Li Yuan sent a message to Yao Yingsong, asking him to help investigate what Chenji had confessed. After all, the fact that Yao Yingsong can see Chenji shows that there is such a relationship. Regarding Yao Yingsong being squeezed out, he would certainly not be able to speak out. After all, Yesheng is nothing but targeting him. It's embarrassing to tell anyone. As long as Yesheng does his own thing, and when he adjusts his condition and finds some good opportunities, it will be over in almost one period. This position is very embarrassing now. It was impossible for those stocks to earn more than $1 billion before. Now let the traders slowly grind it out. It is estimated that after 3 to 5 trading days, they can still earn another $1 to $2 billion. As for rearranging the market, it's a bit too wasteful. The layout of a market situation, the right time, the right place and the right people are indispensable. He can't find a suitable choice in the short term. After all, any layout is extremely risky. The more money you have, the easier it is to go wrong. There is another reason why we can win this time, and that is that this group of opponents does not have the strength to overturn the table. Even if you open tens of billions of short orders with high leverage, The target is not that big in nature. But if there are more than $7 billion and finally lose their minds, the leveraged funds may reach 30 to 40 billion dollars. If you attract a table-topping capital, you can see through everything about him. The first phase did not say that it could only earn 10 billion dollars, but Li Yuan wanted to save himself some trouble. For now, he just wants to keep a low profile and doesn't want to compete with the real capital of the beautiful country. He still lacks enough confidence. Therefore, the best way at present is to find a few large cap stocks to play with. In half a month, if you earn a dozen points, you can retire. It is difficult to analyze large cap stocks. The chips are complex and the market is changeable. You not only need to look at the past data, but also watch it for a few days to confirm your inner guesses, so that you can have the opportunity to choose a good time to make a move. Yao Yingsong responded quickly and said that he would help Li Yuan find out as soon as possible. He didn't say anything else, such as asking Li Yuan to help him stand up. Naturally, Li Yuan didn't make any promises. On the surface, it seemed like an unequal deal. But for Yao Yingsong, he is not qualified to make reciprocal transactions with anyone. Unknowingly, half an hour had passed since the meal, and Li Yuan was once again swept away by sleepiness. It happened that Chen Ji had finished cleaning up, so he said, "Sister Chen, I'm going to bed first. You can also go back and rest. Anyway, I gave you the password, so you can come over at any time." Chen Ji blinked and said, "I see that you are not in good spirits. I guess your sleep quality has not been high recently. Let me relax for you." That's a good relationship. I'm very familiar with Sister Chen's methods. But you can't take advantage of me this time like last time. Chen Ji, are you not asleep emotionally? She thought Li Yuan had fallen asleep. Now that I know this news, I feel even more desperate. If Li Yuan had fallen asleep at that time, she would have had a chance. It turned out to be just a false opportunity. So from beginning to end, Yu Chengguang thought too much. Send your fiancée here, and no one will take her to see her. Soon, Li Yuan, who was lying on the bed, felt all the sleepiness in his body being released again. Let's not talk about whether we will die or not, let's go to sleep first. When he woke up, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. The feeling of comfort all over my body is something I haven't experienced in half a month. Get up, wash up, and do a little exercise. At this time, Chen Ji was already busy in the kitchen. Li Yuan picked up his phone and replied to some messages. There are still a lot of things in the company. For example, Joshin Media has some contracts that he needs to review every day. In addition to signing a contract with a beautiful anchor, there is also some information about poaching people, and Song Jiajia cannot make the decision. He took a look and saw that there was some important news, so he called Song Jiajia. "Sister, I saw the message you sent me. Lu Hao is not going to accept any other advertisements or brand promotions. I am going to tailor a brand for him. I will give you details next week. Contact me in person." There is also the company's contract signing issue. According to the previous standards, if the signing fee is less than 30,000 a month in the future, the senior sister can make the decision on her own, and there is no need to say hello to me. Well, I have no other request, just sign more female anchors. I think the twins you signed are pretty good. You can sign some more of the same type. What? Really? You have to sign it? Think about it, a young and beautiful mother with a young and beautiful daughter. What a great gimmick. You can always make money by doing live broadcasts. Oh, you remembered it wrong, then it's okay. Li Yuan felt that Song Jiajia was testing something. Try it out, how can you have the energy? Even if you enjoy it, you have to wait until you are 25, right? At least 6 years. 6 years later, how old are the female anchors who have signed contracts now? He was simply doing good for the company, yet Song Jiajia made such malicious assumptions about herself. Song Jiajia must be paid. If she doesn't pay her, she will be bolder. After her salary was paid, if she dared to make random speculations, her salary would be deducted and her provident fund would be cut off. Then she would be afraid. Fortunately, twin sisters are real. After a while, Chenji brought out the prepared meals. This time there was much more time, and Chenji even arranged the dishes specially. Take a small sip and enjoy the delicious taste. Chenji's cooking skills are absolutely unique among the people Li Yuan knows. The second level is at least 3 Mount Everests away from her. Well, the second tier is Ms. Jowan. Halfway through the meal, Li Yuan asked, "Sister Chen, you didn't take advantage of me while I was asleep today, did you?" Chenji smiled and said, "I don't dare either. What if I lose my job?" If you can lose your job, then 99% of the people in the world will not be able to find a job. If you leave me, the people who will rob you will line up from Wuzishan to Nantianmen. Huh? One sky and one earth, how can we line up? Is this difficult? A certain monkey who is not greedy for women can pierce the 33rd heaven with a stick. To most men, this is nothing, right? Chenji. She could only say awkwardly, "Awesome." She couldn't take what Li Yuan said because she had never dealt with someone like Li Yuan seriously. Either it is straightforward and naked, or it is slick and hypocritical to the extreme. Li Yuan gave her the feeling of being both straightforward and smooth. It was completely unimaginable that these two personalities could appear in one person. After the meal, Li Yuan said, "Sister Chen, I have to go to work for a while. After you finish cleaning up, go back and rest early. I have to go to bed tomorrow morning." "Well, do you want a late night snack?" No, just have breakfast at 8 or 9 tomorrow." He saw that there were many more things in the refrigerator and some more in the cupboard. Chenji probably bought it when she was sleeping in the afternoon. "I won't have to worry about eating and drinking anymore." After sleeping soundly and eating well, he became more confident in his future trading. No wonder, in the selection of some important positions and the review of personal abilities, virtuous wives account for a large proportion. It's rare to hear about real top bosses having problems at home. Because there is no virtuous mistress in the family, there is a high probability that he will not become a real boss. No matter how powerful you are still afraid of your teammates. Li Yuan went to the study to read the market and write a manuscript. His work efficiency at night was extremely high. It wasn't until about 2 o'clock in the morning that he got up and stretched. When he walked to the living room, he found that Chenji didn't go back. Still wearing the apron, he sat on the sofa and fell asleep. It seemed that he was ready to do something at any time, but it was too late and he couldn't hold on in the end. She hugged her knees with both hands and looked like a sleepy bear, curling up in the corner of the sofa with her bare feet. The collar of the clothes was originally very high, but due to the squeezing of the knees, some parts were raised to a height that did not belong to them. Li Yuan took out the blanket from before and prepared to put it on Sister Chen. Just the moment the blanket touched Chenji woke up. She was still a little dazed at this time. After seeing Li Yuan, she asked, "Are you hungry?" "I'm back, starting to resume updates, and make up for the update I owed yesterday. But it's going to be later, I'll catch up on some sleep. Let's get up and read it tomorrow. If nothing unexpected happens, there should be about 3 chapters left by then."